Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is a special WandaVision open spoiler discussion. And of course, we are going to be discussing WandaVision episode 3, the third episode. This is the second week, but remember, they played 2 episodes last week. We're talking about WandaVision episode 3, and I am so glad that you guys have decided to join us today as we talk about this thing again. If the title didn't make it abundantly clear, we are talking about WandaVision, and we are going to openly talk about the entire show. That means there's going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you have not seen WandaVision Season 1, Episode 3 yet, you might want to come back and revisit this a little bit later. And it is good to have you guys here, and I am not alone, as joining me here, she normally does on Fridays, is the one and the only, the spectacular Ann Campea is here. Ann, how you doing, baby?
Hi, everyone. I also want to welcome John's amazing, handsome haircut to the show.
Now, everybody knows that Ann wasn't exactly the biggest fan of the idea of me getting my hair cut. We discussed that, but I got it cut a little bit longer than I normally do.
It's very nice.
Because Ann was hoping, just didn't want me to see it cut it as short as I normally do, so I did a little bit longer. And I think so far the wife approves, guys. I think so far she likes it. So far she likes it. So it's good to have you guys here with us today. And we're going to be talking about WandaVision. So here's what we're going to do. Ann and I are going to talk about our thoughts about the show for a few minutes. And then we want to spend the majority of today leaving it open to you guys to talk about what it is you want to talk about. Now, just a quick note. Unlike when we do the John Campea Show, you do not use the tip link in the description to send in a question for this. For these open spoiler discussions, we use the super chat feature here on YouTube, which you can see in the live discussion thread there. So if you got a comment or question you want to get on, remember, guys, keep it to WandaVision questions. We're not here today to talk about the new James Bond or Morbius being moved. We're here to talk about WandaVision. Go ahead and use that super chat feature and we will get to your question. All right, honey.
Yeah.
Last week, we talked episodes 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You adored 1 and 2, like more than I did. Like you were grinning ear to ear the whole freaking time, whole way through. You were loving it. So episode 3 is a bit different. I mean, this is a little bit different of an episode than the first 2 episodes, but what were your thoughts on episode 3 overall?
I enjoyed it very much. I think there's a reason why the studio held back on releasing all 3 episodes. Episode 3 is really where shit starts to go down.
Right.
They open the door to kind of the other side of what's happening with Wanda and Vision. And I am just intrigued. I am. And I think that's probably what was the biggest criticism of episodes 1 and 2 is they were peppering a lot of what could be happening behind the scenes. But episode 3 really goes into it, especially at the end of the episode where they kind of reveal the actual world outside of what Wanda's vision of this, like, whatever world that they're living in right now or trapped in. You get that the other side of what's happening. So it was super interesting. Yet they still played on what I loved about episodes 1 and 2. You know, it felt very much now like a Brady Bunch Partridge Family episode. They're in this, what is it, 70s now?
Yeah, it looks like
kind of groovy
clearly
era.
in the 70s.
Yeah, but they still do this perfect balance of having this like homage to what's going on during that time and those TV shows of that time. The humor that happens in those TV shows. But then they get this like really eerie part of the show that kind of streams in and out. And we've talked about this about episodes 1 and 2, where it's just it gives you the chills a little bit about what the hell is actually going on.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of the key moments for me in this episode were, okay, well, actually, I'm going to jump around a little bit, but let's just go to the moment when Agnes is talking to the neighbor, and I keep forgetting the neighbor's name. Herb, that's it. Herb, the next door neighbor, Herb. Catch you on the flip side, Vision.
Which, by the way, what was Herb doing, like drilling the
Just something
cement?
Weird is happening.
Okay,
something weird. Again, I don't get it. It's the same thing with the stork.
Yep.
I don't get what the stork walking around was about. I mean, I
do think we'll know later.
Oh, yeah, a little bit later on.
Reveal later what's going to happen. But go ahead, sorry.
So, yeah, so that scene... Okay, look, there has been a train of thought that Agnes may be connected to Agatha Harkness, maybe a witch herself. There's been some hinting at that. But even outside of that, maybe a part of something. There has been some train of thought that maybe Agnes is the one ultimately holding Wanda there, that maybe Agnes is somehow, the Catherine Hahn character is involved in this whole thing. But then something happened when she's talking to Herb, and Herb's about to let something slip. You would think Agnes, if she's in on this and actually keeping Wanda there, that she would turn to Herb with a really threatening look, like, don't you dare. But instead, when Catherine Hahn turned to him, her face looked terrified.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she looked at him like, if you say something, we will die. Like, and it was in that moment that I think, without Catherine Hahn or Agnes saying a word, that theory that she's in on this, or she's the one pulling the strings, or she's the one holding them there, was kind of thrown completely out the window, because she turned to him that he was about to spill something, and she was almost like pleading with him for her life, just with the look on her face. I thought that was amazing. That was so that was an incredible and telling moment. Again, we had another moment where things start to happen and unravel that Wanda doesn't like, and she resets things. Once again, Vision is like, something is very wrong between this and this and this. And Wanda's just like, what are you talking about? My reincarnation of Vision, that I don't want you to realize something's wrong. And then boom, she resets it. And she's talking again. But then again, of course, the big one, I mean, obviously she has kids.
Yeah, very quickly.
In like 8 hours, she has kids and all that kind of stuff. But then the conversation with Monica. And what's her name in the show?
So like Gwendolyn?
Gwendolyn,
Sorry,
Guinevere.
guys.
You guys in the live chat, what's her name in the show again? But of course, we know that she's actually Monica Rambeau, who is the daughter of Maria Rambeau from Captain Marvel. So we know that's her. Geraldine, thank you guys. We were dancing all around the actual name. Genevieve, Geraldine, thank you guys. And the whole thing about first of all, when she starts talking about her brother, so we see Wanda taking herself out of her fantasy, talking about her brother, then singing the Sokovian lullaby, I guess, to her kids, mentioning her brother. And then, of course, Monica, he was killed by Ultron. What did you say? And then all of a sudden, Wanda gets very, very scary looking.
Mm-hmm.
And so my theories are, and I still have a million theories. I don't have one coherent theory yet, but my theories have started to sway more towards, oh no, Wanda's in control here. And the rest of the world on the outside is trying to figure out how to deal with this. Because when a normal person goes into some kind of psychotic break and they go into a defensive shell just to try to protect themselves mentally, I've mentioned this a couple of times. The Atlantic has a great headline that says, WandaVision is a tragedy about a young woman desperately trying to cope with her loss.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's brilliant. That's exactly what's going on. And so I am more and more starting to think that, no, Wanda is in this, only she's, unlike a regular person having a mental break, her having a real mental break could destroy the world.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
And is when we saw Catherine Hahn looking terrified, was she terrified of Wanda? Was everybody terrified of Wanda? I don't know. Maybe there's still swords keeping her prisoner. I don't know. There's a lot of different things going on in here. But Anne, when you look at things like those heavier scenes, her resetting with Vision again, Agnes looking terrified, Herb looking terrified, Monica getting blown out of the world, and then she lies to Vision. What happens? Oh, she had to leave. I mean, that's kind of true, but she lies to Vision too. Like, how has that kind of affected the way you're looking at the show overall at this point?
Well, I 1,000% agree with you. I think, and I may not say this quote correctly, but I asked you about it earlier, the Shakespearean quote about all the world is a stage and
all of its men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and each man in his time plays many parts.
Thank you, honey. That is alluding to what's actually happening. So Wanda is in control. They know that if she realizes the reality of the situation she's in, that she could kill everybody. So I think what they're trying to do is maintain and control her in this safe space, have her mind believe that she's living in this sitcom world until they can figure out how to get her out of it safely or what to do. I do very much believe that's what's going on. The other piece of dialogue that I thought was interesting was the doctor who was about to go on vacation. And towards the end of that scene where she's had the babies, he's about to go, Vision's like very apologetic, like, sorry, I hope you still get to go on your vacation or whatever. And he's like, we can't, we're not going anymore. We can't escape. And so all of the players in her world are all alluding to kind of what's happening in reality, and we're getting bits of pieces of it. And that's what's intriguing and exciting for me, is that I know at some point, whether it's the next episode or in a few episodes, we're going to know why there was a stork running around the house, why Herb was drilling into cement, like why we're hearing these weird noises. You know, all of these things are going to start to add up, and we're going to get the reveal of what's actually going on around her.
Okay, so I want to jump back a while. This is going back months and months and months and months ago. When Rob and I were doing the John Campea Show, we had talked about a theory. This is long before we knew hardly anything about WandaVision, but it was, what if WandaVision, and we said this months ago, Wanda ends up being the villain? What if we get into, because we knew she was going to be in Doctor Strange, what if we've had all these theories about who's going to be the bad guy in Doctor Strange, who's going to be the antagonist. What if the antagonist is Wanda? What if WandaVision is this tragic story of Wanda in the veneer of the fun sitcoms and everything? What if this tragic story ultimately ends with her going completely, she breaks.
Yeah.
She just becomes broken.
Yeah.
And then that becomes a problem later on. Maybe. I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily what's going to happen, but it's
think about it. So whatever's containing her right now, when she wakes up into reality and realizes what they're doing or how they're keeping her, she's going to be pissed. And then she's going to remember her brother died, her love died. There's nothing really left in her life. So yeah, I can absolutely see that happening.
Yeah. So, and then, well, gosh. Oh, then we get another episode. We get another commercial.
Yes.
And we have kind of there's a few primary speculations here that we've talked about on the previous spoiler. One, each of the commercials is kind of a representation of trauma in her life. The Stark technology with the red blinking light, the Strucker watch. Of course, he's the one who experimented on them. And then this one, they were talking about getting away. It was a vacation one, like getting away, which maybe that is like going back to her parents as well. And it was called Hydra. So, which of course was the organization that Strucker belonged to. There's also a growing belief. We speculated about this last week, but there's a growing belief that the two primary characters that we've seen in all of the commercials, the man and the woman, although the man wasn't in this third one, but that the man and the woman in the commercials so far have been actually, that's her and Pietro's parents.
Oh.
And that's kind of been a part of the thing there too.
Interesting.
Which is very, by the way, SC sends in a super chat badge in the live chat. Thank you, SC. Appreciate that. So, I mean, that one, again, another one. I'm starting to look forward. I'm starting to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together here just from the commercials.
So fun. Yeah.
And see what's going on. But yeah, the doctor, everything's great until, so hard to escape.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so is everybody there? What is the movie that I'm trying to think of where there was like a kid who was all powerful and everybody had to pretend to be great around them? I'm trying to remember who that was, and I can't remember now. At any rate, there's almost a little bit of that going on.
And it's likely in a mass scale, because that last scene where Monica gets thrown out of the world, and you see kind of all of the like barracks and the whatever people coming to get her, but you see all the floodlights, or whatever you call them, like they're big, massive football lights that are all shining into a particular part that we can't see. So they're all being held captive in a very, very massive scale, I think.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody from Angel and Michael and everybody. The thing I'm thinking about is that episode of The Twilight Zone. Thank you. Even when he made the mouths disappear.
Oh, yes.
So thank you for that. Very well done. So a lot of huge things going on here. And, I'm a little bit bummed out. We still haven't had Kat Denning. So I'm sure she's going to be along promptly. At least I hope she is. We still haven't had, I keep forgetting Asian Jim's name. I can't believe I keep forgetting Randall Park. Randall Park, but we might have heard his voice already, we suspect. But I am telling you, this is the episode. And I told you guys a few days ago that I'm not going to spoil anything for episode 3, but they accelerate that peeking behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. And they certainly have done that. The peeking behind the curtain, it's just going more and more into overdrive. And I think we're really heading towards this whole thing breaking. It'll be interesting to see what they do in episode 4. Now, Ann and I are just in the exact same spot as you. Like, we did the spoiler review for episodes 1 and 2, when we had already seen 3. We saw 3 last week. We have not seen 4.
Yeah.
And so I have no idea what's coming next, which is really quite interesting. So, okay, guys, you know what? Let's spend the rest of the episode now taking your thoughts, your comments, your questions about what you see going on here in WandaVision. Let's jump into it right now. Evelyn writes in, I know / believe that even if this was made to Wanda or by Wanda, now she is the one that is in control of most of the stuff that happens, and she is enjoying it. It's becoming more difficult not to think Wanda is the one in control. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I think in episode 1 and 2, I keep saying ones. In episode 1s and 2s, we keep going back and forth. Okay, is she being held there in this fantasy world? Is she in control of this fantasy world? I think episode 3, almost every single nod that happens is kind of suggesting more and more that Wanda's in control. This is her prison. That she's keeping herself, but it seems to be her. Now, I'm not definitively saying that's what's happening, but where are you on that scale right now? Like, as far as, is this Wanda in control? Is there somebody else doing this to her? Where are you on that right now?
I believe Wanda is in control. I also believe that she's being held captive by somebody else.
So you don't think this is just her doing it? You think there's somebody else kind of doing this to her?
Orchestrating her.
Really?
To have that.
You might be right. And I have not, like I said, I haven't completely resigned myself to the fact that it's Wanda. I'm just saying, after this episode, I'm leaning more towards that this is all Wanda. But one episode could totally change our minds. Okay, let's move on here. Next up, we got Mad Real Cinema, who writes, over or under 30%, that Doctor Strange appears in the last episode. Wanda is messing with reality, and we saw how quickly he intervened when Thor and Loki were simply just looking for Odin. Here's the thing. A lot of people have been asking me that question about whether or not, because Kevin Feige has told us that WandaVision, Spider-Man 3, and Doctor Strange 2 is kind of like one story. Mm-hmm. I would say over 30% that Doctor Strange shows up, because a lot of people have been wondering that. I would say that if the next chapter was Doctor Strange 2, but it's not. The next chapter is Spider-Man 3. You know, we're not getting Doctor Strange 2, I believe, until 2022.
Got it.
And so because of that, I will say under. And you're right, Doctor Strange is supposed to be looking out for the realm. But again, if Doctor Strange was the next thing to come out, I would say over 30%, but I will say under. What about you, Ann? Over under 30% that Doctor Strange shows up by the end of the show?
Well, I didn't know any of that or the order of operations there, so I'm just going to agree with John.
All right. So we're going to say, for now, Mad Real Cinema, we're going to say under 30%, but you raise a couple of excellent points. All right, next up, Marie Singfring writes, Vision gets reset every time he asks too many questions. Do you think he is actually alive again? Or do you think he is a projection of Wanda's subconscious trying to warn her? Thanks. Okay, here's what I'm thinking right now. I don't think it's actually Vision. I think it is a manifestation who thinks he's Vision. Like, I believe that this character we're seeing, Vision, has been manifested by Wanda, who is self-aware and truly believes he is Vision, but he's not the actual Vision. And the moment, because Wanda, to me, it seems like Wanda doesn't want him to realize that he's Pinocchio, that he's not a real boy. Mm-hmm. And whenever he starts to ask questions that could lead him to the whole thing about, I'm artificial. And I don't mean a robot, but I mean, like, I'm not real. She stops the narrative, resets the narrative, and puts it off. Where do you think, I just asked you about how much do you think Wanda's in control, but what is Vision now? What are your thoughts on what Vision is?
I actually had this thought earlier, and it's kind of crazy, but I actually think when she wakes up, she's going to realize that whatever is orchestrating around her, they've created something to to give off that they are Vision. I don't think it's an actual person. It could just be a box. But what I think is that they've reconstructed what Vision was originally, right? Was the kind of the AI within the what do you call it? Iron Man suit or whatever.
Right.
Just so she has something that makes her think that he is still around.
Possible.
I don't know if I don't know that I believe in the theory that it's like a figment of her own creation,
right.
or her
That's where I am leaning right now. I am kind of leaning towards that right now, but I don't know. There's still so much to find out. Okay, next up, Marie Singfring also writes, I enjoyed the fact that Wanda's magic didn't work on the stork. Thanks. Again, the stork is weird to me. And by the way, when I said stork, like, what's the deal with the stork? A few people in the live chat wrote, well, John, you see, the stork is the symbol of a baby. No, I know that. But what was the point of it actually a manifested stork showing up? We all know that the stork is a symbol of a baby, but why does she manifest a stork? And she honestly looked surprised that the stork was there.
Yeah.
So what's up with that? Or is this maybe a sign that somebody else is actually in control? And
that's what I'm saying. And their stork got loose.
The stork got loose.
Into the world. And they're like, crap, the stork came running across this imaginary world that she's in.
Stork got loose is also... I'm not going to say what I was about to say. I've thought better. You know, there are some conversations when you're just hanging out in a room with your wife that may be a joke you'll make, but here we're not going to do that right now. So let me just do the Wanda reset, and let's go back on to the questions, shall we? Okay, next up. That was Marie Singfring. All right, Patrick Conway writes, Wanda can really get quite scary. Dude, I'm telling you, it's not just, something's wrong. It went from episode 1 of, oh, something's kind of weird, to, I wonder what it is. Then episode 2 is a little bit creepy. Episode 3, now it's just scary. She scares me. Like, when the moment she realized that, like, Monica was not a part of her illusion and that she was breaking character by bringing up Ultron. I mean, Monica's lucky she got out at all. Mm-hmm. Like, she's lucky. It feels to me like she's lucky Wanda just threw her out and didn't just disintegrate her or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I saw it. I see this transition happening from her being just, charmingly ignorant of what's happening. What's going on? I don't know. Why is that heart on the calendar? To Vision do something and no to the beekeeper when the beekeeper. And now we're in this one where it's just outright scary. Do you see that same progression, or how do you see that kind of unfolding so far?
And I do think for me, and I think last week or the week before someone commented about Elizabeth Olsen's acting, but I think it has a huge part to play in how the range of this character can convey both of those extremes all in one episode. I think she's super charming in some instances, and then she can be really, I'm going to murder you, scary looking. So, and I think that I'd have to say that's kudos to Elizabeth Olsen for being able to pull that off too.
So good. Again, her and Paul Bettany.
Yeah, they're
just
great.
So great. Yeah. They're just both so good in this. It's so much fun watching them. All right, Evelyn writes, I noticed that Herb tells Vision when about Geraldine that she came because felt like they know they are stuck and people are trying to help. Again, that's that whole moment when he's like, it feels like he's about to reveal that. And then Catherine Hahn Agnes turns to him with this petrified, scared to death look on her face. It's like, if you break character here, Wanda will kill us all. Or maybe it's not Wanda who will kill them all. Maybe it's somebody else who will kill them all. But it's really starting to feel that these people, including the doctor you were pointing out, are actually legitimately in fear for their life. All right, Ryan Holman writes, I think we're going to get a situation similar to Wonder Woman and Steve with Wanda and Vision.
Oh.
I don't know what that means.
Like where it's like Steve was in some other guy's, manifested in some other guy's body.
Well, you were just saying that maybe he's in a box, or maybe he's...
I think he's just like in a computer or something now that she doesn't realize
somebody else's body wouldn't have the powers that he has, or that he had. I don't know. It's an interesting thought, Ryan, or Rylan. We'll have to keep our eyes on that. I guess right now, anything is possible, Rylan. Anything is possible right now. You're just... Things are starting to get bonkers in this show. All right. Evelyn also writes, Wanda looks so creepy at the end. Chills. Yeah, it's gone. It went from innocently naive to kind of creepy to straight up scary. Now she's just looking scary. All right. Lee McHenry writes, hey, John and Ann, greetings from Dublin, Ireland. Gowan Conor McGregor this weekend. Love the Irish flag. I guess they saw her unboxing. I find it very interesting that Sword's main base is just outside of Westview. Well, listen, that may not be, first of all, let's be clear. We don't know that Sword, the military group at the end. I mean, it probably is. Of course it probably is. I think it's safe to assume that. I'm just saying, keep that one little possibility open. There might be something else. But assuming it is Sword, who says that's their main base? How long has Wanda been in this bubble? I mean, if she's been there and if this is a global threat, they may have set up a forward base there over the past day, week, month. How long has she been in that bubble? I mean, that's a real question. So I don't think that Wanda's bubble just happened to pop up outside of the base, or maybe Sword is in control of this and they have it set up at the base. I don't interpret it that way so far, but I could be wrong. I think it's just, no, this is where the event is happening. So they've set up their base of operations there. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think they're at Sword's base, or do you think they're just set up there temporarily?
I think they set up wherever they were able to contain Wanda.
Yeah, I agree. All right, next up, we've got Rylan Holman, who writes, this show is doing a great job with the intrigue and mystery. It is. Is Vision alive? Is Wanda behind it all? Is Agnes? So many questions, so good. Thanks, guys. And that is truly one of the things that we have got to take our cap off to the people running this show, is that they are running 6 or 7 big questions all at once that just continue to to integrate and to interweave and become this complex web. Because you're right. What's the deal with Herb cutting through the wall? What's the deal with the damn stork? Are the babies real, or is this part of the fantasy? If they're real, what the heck are they showing up in 12 hours for? Especially since they can't be, naturally done by Vision. What's Agnes's role in all this? Is Wanda the one behind this? Is Sword reacting to what's going on, or are they the cause of what's going on? Like, we're 3 episodes in and there's all these running questions that just have us guessing the whole way. Being in episode 3 now for you, baby, is what's the question? Like, we're just talking about, there's all these lists of questions going on, but when you look at the show right now, what's the one real question you're looking to get an answer for?
Who's orchestrating everything?
Yeah, that comes out to that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Who's
actually behind it? Okay. Let's move on here. Patrick Conway writes, just thinking with the Strucker twins from The Gifted. Oh, that's true. That's right. Because they were the Von Strucker twins in The Gifted. I loved that show. I'm so bummed that it got canceled. Jamie was in that show.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she played Blink.
Yeah,
Jamie played Blink in that. Was Von Strucker's kids in the comics right around the MCU version of them being the villains in the show? I don't know if we can call that right around, but I'll be honest with you, Patrick, you bring up a great point. I totally forgot about that. They were the Von Strucker twins, and maybe there could have been a connection there, but we'll never know because they don't seem to be crossing those streams. But damn it, I missed The Gifted. I really liked that show. I enjoyed that show. I miss it.
I forgot what we were talking about.
Josh Bing writes, my guess from the clue so far is that Wanda's having some kind of mental break. If you think about it, she's been through a lot from Ultron to Endgame. I mean, no, it's true. And again, I keep going back to that Atlantic article that, again, I think the title of it's so great. WandaVision, the tragedy of a young woman desperately trying to deal with her grief. It's powerful. And really, when you look at not just like losing her brother, and then forget the Vision stuff, all the events of Civil War that happened as a result of her being the one who let off that final explosion that caused the Sokovian Accords and caused all the trouble. Her own family, the Avengers, puts her under house arrest. She's got to fight against her fellow Avengers. Then finally, she kind of steals away with Vision, finally to have a few moments, and then she watches Vision die, not once, but twice. Both times, once at her hand and once when she wasn't able to prevent it. I mean, she's dealing with a lot.
Yeah.
And I think for them, it would be just like Kevin Feige to say, you know what, in the midst of pop, boom, bang, explosion, comic book stuff, This is the story about a girl dealing with heavy grief and regret and pain. And I wouldn't put it past Kevin Feige to say that's the heart of this story. So, well pointed out there, Josh. All right. Next, and that fact that this is all leading just to a mental break, I wouldn't doubt it at all. All right. Drew H writes, one of two. I think Hydra or some other organization is after her kids, knowing they will be enhanced beings. They are manipulating her by playing off of her grief and her want to remain in this utopian world. Agnes seems pretty suggestive about the idea of her children from the start. They also were very, that's true. She comes in, no kids? How come you don't have any kids? That's right. Remember the boss's wife said the same thing.
Right.
From the start. They were also very suspicious of Geraldine, suggesting she's an outsider and does not belong. The problem I have with that is that how many times is the MCU going to do Hydra?
Yeah.
They've already done Hydra so many times and beat them already several times, both in the movies and in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think they pop back up like 3 separate times and they keep thinking, okay, we beat Hydra. And then they come back. Oh, now we beat Hydra. And then they come back. I would just be over it, but maybe it's Sword, but I don't know how they would think or anybody would know that we can trick Wanda into making herself pregnant and having children in 8 hours. I mean, I don't know. I think this is unexpected. I don't think anybody could have expected this. I don't know. Do you think the children, I mean, I'm thinking the children are just fantasy characters, to be honest. I don't think they're real, but do you think the children have a deeper role to play in all this?
Oh man, like if she really had babies?
Yeah, do you think she actually had real
I mean,
kids?
maybe she somehow got pregnant. I mean, last week we talked about how her and Vision have sex. So
It's a big sex story.
There's a chance that she was pregnant in the last movie, and now they know this, and they're trying to prevent whatever the kids come out to be.
So
you're
you're suggesting maybe she's been pregnant this whole time,
yeah,
and just in episode 3, she's allowing that reality to be a part of her fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe now it's about, okay, not only is she having this mental breakdown, but they're like, oh crap, one of the most powerful beings in this world is about to also have kids that could also come out and destroy the world. Like, what do we do?
I'm still kind of caught up in this idea that she's been pregnant this whole time. And
well, why not?
This is literally 9 months after the events of Endgame. And she has just in her fantasy hid from herself her pregnancy and just now allows that. This is kind of blowing my mind a little bit. I think it's see, you ain't just pretty. You're not just pretty. All right. I think that's, it's a little bit out there, but it's fascinating to think about. Okay. Let's move on here. Thanks a lot for that, Drew. Appreciate that. Okay. Next up, Cody writes, hey, John and Ann, thanks for being awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cody. If AIM are the ones behind this, I wonder if we'll get any context as to how they survived after being effectively exposed and ruined in Iron Man 3. Yeah, so of course, AIM, in the comic books, AIM is a criminal organization of scientists that were founded by Strucker of Hydra in the comic books. But in the MCU, Killian is the one who founded AIM and came up with Extremis and the whole point of Iron Man 3. So that, and by the way, when we were talking about episode 1 and 2, I had completely forgotten about AIM's involvement in Iron Man 3. I had completely forgotten about it. And so some of you guys writing to me this week about that and reminding me about that Iron Man 3 thing is that, oh yeah, that's probably not AIM. Now you can say, but John, the beekeeper, yeah, but when you and I look closer at that beekeeper scene, he had the sword logo on his back. Mm-hmm. It wasn't anything else. So I no longer think it's AIM, even though I was the one peddling this idea that it's AIM. Now I think, nope, I think I was dead wrong about that. Like, what do you think? Like, is it Hydra? Is it Sword? I mean, obviously Sword is a part of it, but is it just Sword? Or could it be AIM? Could it be another criminal organization? Like, where do you think we're at that right now?
I don't know. I gave one incredible theory just now. I don't know that I have enough. I don't know that I have another one left in me. It could be a conglomerate of all of them. They've all merged together.
And you know, somebody else, by the way, S Gang 19 in the live chat is reminding us that in the last episode, the big thing, for the children, for the children,
Yeah.
for the children. Maybe this is all about the kids. Anyways, just getting every episode is bringing new questions.
Isn't it so cute if her and Vision had babies?
But what are they?
Cute.
Does he actually have sperm? I mean, I don't mean to sound crude. It's a legitimate scientific question. Does he even produce sperm? He's a robot. Does he have robo-sperm? How come they don't have red faces or whatever? I'm just saying.
They could. They're just,
Maybe they are doing the little magic facing too. Are they Wiccan in speed? I don't know. We'll have to find out. Okay, next up. Alex Hammervick writes, over under 20% that Agnes's husband Ralph is Mephisto. The Mephisto thing keeps coming up, and for good reason. I am still dubious that Mephisto's a part of this at all. Now, of course, in the comics, Mephisto is incredibly supernatural. I mean, one of Mephisto's names in the comics is, of course, Satan. He is a demon of hell. He is whatever. I don't think they're going in that direction. Now, I mentioned that to somebody once, and they correctly pointed out to me, hey, John, just because Mephisto is one way in the comics doesn't mean he couldn't be something completely different in the MCU. And maybe it is Mephisto, but just a different iteration of Mephisto than what we're used to in the comics. And that's a very valid point, too. But I'm still thinking Ralph is, even in Westfield. Is that the name of the town? Westfield?
Westview or Westfield?
Westview or Westfield, whatever it is. I'm thinking in the town of, we'll call it Westfield for now. In the town of Westfield, I think even in Westfield, Ralph is a fictitious character. I think Ralph is a fictitious character. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. All right. So I'm going to go under 20% on that, Alex, for now. Not zero, but under 20%. Let's see. Westview. People in the chat are saying it's Westview. What was I saying? Westfield?
Westfield.
It's Westview. Westview. Okay. And okay, let's see here. Rylan Holman writes, was it just me, or did it seem when Wanda was giving birth that something was creepy about her screams? It sounded almost demonic or like something else. I mean, look, I don't know. I have never been present for childbirth. I have a feeling that demonic screams might be what it sounds like. I mean, I don't know. I have never been present for that, so I have no idea. Maybe Ralph can answer that question. I don't know. But all right, next up, Ian Lewis writes, could a reason be HBO is not making money? Again, sorry guys, we're here to talk about WandaVision right now. I appreciate that, Ian, but we are here. Everybody's here to talk about WandaVision, so I don't want to deviate us from course. Thank you for sending in a question, but again, that we're here to talk about WandaVision. All right, Ryan Loner writes, favorite moment was Phil being saved from the ultimate no-win question from your wife.
Oh,
Does
yeah.
this make me look fat?
That was awesome.
That was what did he say when the lights went out? What do you say, like, oh, thank goodness?
God, or something.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, when your wife asks you that question, it is the ultimate Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. It is the ultimate, it's the ultimate, it's a trap. Never answer that question. Never answer my question. Never answer the question when they ask you, do I look fat in this? Do you like my mother? And would you have a threesome with my friend? Never answer that. It's a trap every time. It's a total trap. Not that I would know that from firsthand experience. All right, next up. Let's see. Ryan Loner writes, I'm pretty sure this is the first time Pietro has been directly mentioned since Age of Ultron. That made me gasp out loud. Yeah, no, that was a serious moment. That was a great moment when she actually comes out and mentions her brother.
Yeah.
And talks about it. But again, you could tell, like, when she does, she was breaking character.
Yep.
And she was thinking about the real world at that point. But she's never had the real world speak back at her until Monica Rambeau says, he was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? But there's something very sweet about the way that Elizabeth Olsen plays that. Like, when she mentioned that, did you remember that was her brother and that he died in Age of Ultron? What was your reaction when you heard her when you heard her say that name?
Oh, just sad. Really, really just sad. It just feels like, to your earlier point, so many things happened after that I'm sure she just didn't have time to deal with it. And it's still like a suppressed, horrible, horrible experience for her.
All right, let's move on here. Next up, Anurag P writes, love the look of pure like terror on Wanda's face when Vision was beginning to realize something was wrong. Elizabeth Olsen played that perfectly. Listen, seriously, the way both Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany have been playing their characters is incredible. But you're right. The way that Elizabeth Olsen, who is, again, to me, an Academy level actress, the way she moves back and forth between I am a character in this sitcom versus I am this other character who is deeply, deeply in grief and trying to protect myself from this thing. It is remarkable. And I think that's a great observation. All right, Drew H writes, my favorite part of the episode was when Wanda talked about Pietro and began singing the Sokovian lullaby. It was both touching and depressing. And that's the thing. That's what a good story can do. A good storyteller can make two different things happen at once. And I feel like when she was singing that lullaby, it was at one time incredibly sweet, but incredibly tragic too. There was a sadness to it. I wouldn't call it depressing, but I would say there was a sadness to it. And it's that duplicity that I feel like Elizabeth Olsen is playing out really, really well. And I'll tell you, it's probably my favorite aspect of Elizabeth Olsen's performance in this so far, is the way she's able to play that duplicity. If you had to put your one finger, because I know you really like the performances like me, if you had to put your finger on one thing that is like your favorite aspect of their performances so far, whether it's the comedic or the era or whatever, what would you say your favorite element of their performances are?
I love how she really, really takes on that era, and the way that the jokes are supposed to be delivered and the way she speaks, and then quickly right away when she kind of snaps out of it, because she speaks normally, at least the way we're used to her speaking. So I think the way that she can transition just her voice and the tone is my favorite.
Yeah, it's been just well done.
I had one thought though that's really eerie.
Ooh, okay, what?
Then the next time we see her singing the lullaby is she's
dead?
Killing somebody.
Oh.
Isn't that haunting?
If the girl who is trying to murder Thanos is singing like a Sokovian lullaby over somebody she's killing, that's Vader level right there. That would be like absolute Vader level right there. Okay, let's keep going here. Drew H writes, that was Drew H. Next one up, Ryan Loner writes, I'm now guessing Monica Rambeau entered the force field in that red helicopter, which turned her into Geraldine and the helicopter into a toy. That's not a bad theory. Because remember, Wanda heard the helicopter, and in her fantasy, it was taking on the sound of a lawnmower. She stepped outside and then found the little toy helicopter in the thing. So entering into that illusion bubble, I don't know. And then maybe at that point, Geraldine had to figure out what was going on and jump into the role and play the role.
I love that.
Or maybe she became brainwashed into being a character in it at first. Because when Geraldine brings up Ultron, it's almost like she's just realizing it too. It's like, Pietro, he was killed by Ultron. It's like, so I don't know. I
love it. I think anything coming from the outside world is in color, right? That's what we suspected. So that makes sense. Yes. That's cool.
Could be. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks for bringing that up, Brian. Excellent theory. I like that theory a lot, actually. I like that theory a lot. All right, next up. Sam Fisher writes, 1 of 3. I wasn't on board with the idea that Agnes was in league or involved with the main villain, if there is one. But after this episode, I'm coming around to it. See, funny, because to me, this episode makes me think the opposite. But anyway, I didn't like the idea at first because of the clip where Agnes asks Vision if she was dead. I would think if she was in league with the villain, she wouldn't need to ask. She would already know the answer. And again, to me, the thing that takes me away from the theory that Agnes is in on it, which she very well could be, but this is the episode that kind of makes me lean away from that, because again, when Herb was gonna say something, you'd think if she was in on it, she would look at Herb like with a threatening look. Like, don't you dare say anything or you're dead, right? Mm-hmm. But instead it was total fear. Total fear. And that's the thing to me that makes me wonder if she's not in on it. I mean, the whole idea that, look, could it be she's actually, Ralph, her husband, which is, Mephisto's alias name in the comics and stuff like that. And maybe he's a part. I mean, these are all pieces of the puzzle that are completely on the table. I just think a lot of it is Easter egg stuff and not actual saying this is actually, what's happening. So I'm leaning away from her being involved, but we could find out in one episode that you are 100% right about that. We will find out soon enough, Sam. All right, next up. Sam Fisher also writes, was Agnes trying to convince Herb Monica didn't belong, or are some of the townsfolks in on it, can't decide? Okay, so here's my theory.
Okay.
My theory is not that Agnes was trying to convince Herb that Monica didn't belong there. I think they were talking about, what do we do about this? I think Herb and her, because it both seemed like they were on the same wavelength. I think they were trying to figure out, what do we do about Monica? Could this threaten all of us?
Yeah.
Could Monica being here put us all in danger? It felt like they had to try to figure out a way to deal with it without breaking character and risking their own lives. I don't know. So my feeling was that they were jointly discussing, what do we do about Monica, not one trying to convince the other. That's how I saw it. How did you see it?
Yeah, same. I think so. I think their intentions were a little bit different, but ultimately it was, this person who it sounds like hasn't been involved in kind of from the original planning of what's being orchestrated. What do we do about this person who hasn't really been vetted by the rest of us? I think was kind of where they were going.
Right. All right. Let's move on here. Next up, Max Papineau writes, hey, John, by the time this show ends, we'll only have to wait 2 weeks before Falcon and Winter Soldier starts. Crazy, get back-to-back content. Again, that's one of the great things about this year with Disney Plus. Now, look, and I make no apologies for this. I was very critical. I have been very critical the past year of Disney Plus, because they came out with all these big promises. Our network's going to be this, and this. And then they launch with Mandalorian, great. And then didn't follow it up with any premium exclusive content. Whole bunch of little filler content, but like no big premium thing, right? And that for me was, as a customer and as a Disney fan, I thought that was very frustrating. And I thought they should have done better, especially with their launch. But here we are in year 2 of Disney Plus, and it's very different. We've had Mandalorian. Now we're in WandaVision. We only got a couple of weeks to wait after WandaVision for Falcon and Winter Soldier, and then they got more stuff coming. It is already a much, much better year, partially because of WandaVision. So yes, well said, Max. All right, next up. Tyler Piffer writes, one of two. Mephisto was mentioned on the dossier Fury gave Cap back in the Captain America post-credit scene. He was helping S.H.I.E.L.D. with the Cosmic Cube. It was obviously retcon since they didn't use him back then. His name was digitally removed from Disney Plus. I really think he's the big bad. Did they remove his name from Disney Plus? I'll say this. I don't remember Mephisto's name being a part of that dossier, but to be honest with you, I don't think his name being there or not being there means anything one way or the other. I don't think it reduces the chance that Mephisto could be involved in this season. I don't think it increases the chance that Mephisto could be involved in the season. I really don't. Like, I wouldn't think for a second, well, since he was mentioned before and never used, that means he can't possibly be a part of this. Oh, he still could. He may very well be. We may find out in episode 4. We may meet Ralph, and Ralph may indeed be Mephisto. Might be. Don't know, but I don't think whatever happened in the dossier scene at the end of the first Captain America, which was a time when they hadn't even conceived of a WandaVision show. I don't think it increases or decreases the chances of that. But again, I feel like we're going to find out mountains and snowballs of new information with every episode moving on, Tyler. Good observation. All right, Tyler writes, odds Doctor Strange shows up in the finale. We already kind of covered that. I still think pretty low. I would think higher if Doctor Strange was the next movie to come out, but it is not. So I'm going to guess pretty low. Not impossible, not zero. Nothing can surprise us in the MCU. But for now, I'm going to say I think it's actually pretty low. All right, Ben Rayner writes, over under 5% Bob Saget or John Stamos cameos in the 90s episode. I'm going to go 0.
They haven't done any cameos yet.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Like, they haven't done any cameos.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you say, well, John, who would have been alive from a 50s cameo? That was 70 years ago. True, but you could have from the 70s
Yeah,
one.
there's people around for sure.
So for that, I'm going to guess pretty much zero, no cameos. But again, we live in a world where Jamie Foxx is coming back as Electro. So, I mean, who knows? I wouldn't count it. By the way, hey, John Stamos has a new show coming to Disney Plus where he's some girls' school basketball coach.
Oh, okay.
So he's in the Disney family. Again, I still think it's almost 0% Ben, but you never know. Let's see what happens. Extant Crab writes, I've had Daydream Believer stuck in my head all day. Have I not been whistling that all day? I've been walking around the house and
I have this big thing about whistling
Han
just in
hates it when I
general,
whistle.
especially John.
Especially me. There's so many things about me that Anne especially hates, but I get that from my dad. The whistling, I don't honestly. I remember thinking that a while ago. It's like, why do I often will just start whistling a song? I get it from my dad. Did you know if my dad does that a lot?
Now that you say that, yeah.
Yeah, that's who I get it from. So I've been. You're getting annoyed just right now. I can see it in your face. That's Anne. That's Anne's getting annoyed with John look.
Wanda face.
I see that look a lot. Just saying. All right. But yes, I've been doing that too, extant. All right. Next up, BW Rosa writes, been thinking that Wanda's 75% in control of what's going on in this reality, and anything that tries to disrupt that, she changes to suit her liking. Like with her resetting events to suit what she wants or casting folks out. Listen, BW, episodes 1 and 2, I kind of shift back and forth. Episode 3 has made me much more fall in line with the way you're thinking. And listen, episode 4 could come and totally change our minds. But I am with you right now. Everything I have seen so far in context, now that I've seen, now that we're talking episode 3, as we look back at episodes 1 and 2, it changes the way I've seen that things that have happened in 1 and 2. Now it looks clear. The Vision, help him. The no, the all that kind of stuff. This is Wanda's reality. This is her doing. This is her mental defensive mechanisms. This is her trying to deal with her grief. This is her trying to escape into the world of when she was a little girl and would watch these old American sitcoms on TV with her family. Her mom and dad are now gone. Her brother is gone. The love of her life is gone twice. I'm not going to be surprised at all if next week we find out Sword is doing this to her, or Mephisto is doing this to her, or some secretly surviving member of the Black Order is doing this to her, or whoever. But right now, as of this moment, I am leaning towards the way you're thinking, BW. It seems to me that seems to be the most realistic thing, but we'll find out more, and we'll probably have completely new theories after episode 4. Good observation, man. Thanks for writing that in. Olivia Hess writes, big fan of this series so far. Just wondering, who's your favorite side character in Westview? Well, we got Herb, we got Agnes. Who's the plastic? Who's the blonde woman who's kind of in charge of the city?
Oh, I don't know her
Who's
name.
the Rachel McAdams from Mean Girls?
Yeah.
Hey guys in the live chat, what's that woman's name? The one who got her hand cut. Dottie. We got Dottie. I can't remember if we mentioned Herb. We've got Vision's coworker,
David Schwimmer.
That was my uncle's piano.
Yeah.
David Schwimmer. Thank God. Piano. I mean, I gotta go. I'm a little bit biased, obviously. But it's, and everybody in the live, 20 people just mentioned Dottie. Thanks, nerds, and Kimberly and Michael and everybody else. It's because I came in a massive lover of Catherine Hahn. I love Catherine Hahn, and I've loved her character so far. And that one terrifying look she gave Herb, or terrified look she gave, only makes me even more invested in the character. But that's me. I'm going to say the Agnes character is my favorite side character. What about you, baby? Who's your favorite character right now?
I love Ralph.
But that we haven't even seen.
Because all the references that she makes about it, it's so funny to me. It's just like Ralph wouldn't do that, or Ralph would like that. I'm like, I want to meet this Ralph guy. He sounds awesome.
The one line she gave today, like all the power went out. That's fine. Ralph's handsomer in the dark.
Yeah.
Something along, some kind of joke like that, which
Who
I thought
is
was
this guy?
all right, let's keep going here. Thanks for writing that in, Olivia. All right, next up, BW Rosa also writes in, and remember, Wanda's powers are evolving greatly. I mean, she nearly took out Thanos on her own. So who she can't warp reality? So who's she can't warp reality to suit her liking? Well, again, now we start getting into what are her powers? How much of her powers from the comic books are they actually bringing into the MCU? And all that because yeah, she has reality warping abilities in many ways. I mean, House of M, right? But I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how powerful do they say she is. Because again, you just can't forget that Endgame fight when she stalks Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
She stalks Thanos. It is what I've said this before. It is one of the most chilling moments in any comic book movie to me is when she's stalking Thanos and she says to Thanos, the mad Titan who kills everybody, and she's walking him, she says, "You took everything from me."
Yeah.
And he so dismissively says, "I don't even know who you are." And then she says the two words that honestly are among the two most chilling words in the history of comic book movies. "You will." It's like, damn. And then she starts to beat the shit out of Thanos. Now, Thanos ultimately wins the fight, granted, but he barely. Like, it is absolutely chilling. So what are they saying is going to be the ceiling for her? You know, are they saying that was the full manifestation of her power when she's fighting Thanos? Are they saying this is her just scratching the surface of how powerful she can be? I mean,
they're scratching the surface.
Really? You think they're going to go a lot deeper with how strong she is?
There's enough motivation there for her to go that deep into the character and what those powers can actually do. And I'm loving this theory that she is ultimately going to turn into the big villain for Doctor Strange and for Spider-Man.
Interesting. All right.
Loving it.
That could be totally confirmed in the next episode, or we may totally change our minds in the next episode. That's the great thing about this show so far, is that we are changing our theories as we go because the show is giving us new information every time. All right. Good observation, BW. Next up, we got Benjamin GL, who writes, sends in like a $50 super chat. Thank you, Benjamin, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Seriously, thank you very much. It's hugely generous. All right. I am 100% sure, says Benjamin, all the people are real people except Vision. I don't know why you think they're not having seen episode 3. Also, why on stuff like WandaVision and Andor and Ahsoka, different people keep giving conflicting information about a season 2 they originally said 1. Well, okay, let's start with the thing. Is everybody there real? I'm still not convinced everybody there is real.
I am.
Think so?
Yeah.
Like even like the doctor's wife?
Yeah.
And man, I don't know.
They're all people in the world.
Because here's the thing to me. Let's take that great scene about does this make me look fat? Right? Wanda's not there. Vision's not there. They're totally alone. Like when Agnes and Herb are alone and away from Wanda and Vision, they can clearly have a conversation. But then we cut to their house, Dottie and her husband's house, and they're completely in character. Does this make me look fat? Phew. Oh, thank God, right? Mm-hmm. They're completely in character. So I don't know. I definitely think some of the people there are real, and maybe it's all of them. There are people in the live chat are saying, hey, brainwashing. Yeah, maybe they're brainwashed. Then how come it didn't take with Herb? And why didn't it take in with Agnes or the doctor when he says he's leaving Vision? You know, it's hard to escape.
Yeah, and that's a real doctor, I think.
So, I mean,
I think they're all real people.
So you're on
Vision,
that. You think they're all real people.
Vision's in a box.
Here's something interesting. And I'd like to know what you guys think about this. Recently, and believe me, we're talking about WandaVision here. Just follow me here for a second. Recently on the John Campea Show, we talked about some first set images that came out from Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man they're shooting, right? One of the pictures is, one of those boards where people staple flyers on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And some have to do with Mysterio saying, I believe, and some saying, no, citizens for Spider-Man and whatever. But the whole rest of the billboard is about missing children. Where's our children? Where's our children? Still missing our children. One of our viewers wrote in with a theory that I admittedly dismissed, but maybe there's something to it. One of our viewers wrote in and said, since we know that WandaVision, the next Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange 2 are a connected story, what if the children we see trick-or-treating in the WandaVision commercial, what if these are all children Wanda's taken and brought into this world? What if that's kind of the connection between WandaVision and Spider-Man, that all these missing children that are on these billboards in Spider-Man 3, what if these are all children that Wanda has taken and brought into her world? Now, again, that assumes a lot of things. It assumes that everybody in this world is real, because if they are, that means those children we see in the commercial out trick-or-treating, they're real too. Wanda's kidnapped children. But again, that is a wild, wild theory. I'm not saying I'm buying into that theory, but it does connect some dots. Yeah, the Spider-Man 3 connection, if everybody there is real. But you're still of the camp that every single person in there is real, right?
Yes, 100%.
What about, how would you address the thing I'm bringing up? What about when there's conversations of characters when there's not Wanda or Vision around them?
Like, why are we seeing them? Or
yeah, and why are they not breaking character when Wanda and Vision isn't even there? Is it brainwashing? Are they fooled? Or
yeah, I think so. Honestly, I think they're real people. Some are actually being held captive. Some are trying to contain Wanda. All of it's being orchestrated by somebody.
All right. Southtown Paint apps in the live chat is writing, all those kids are Nick Cage's kids. I just thought that was a good comment. All right, let's move on here. Thank you for that, Benjamin. Appreciate that. And as far as the conflicting info, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some of these series, they call them limited series, which like a limited series is basically the new way of saying a mini series.
Yeah.
Which means it's going to be one season, but then they're talking about other seasons. I don't even think they've got it all figured out right now, to be honest with you. I just don't. But anyway, thanks again for sending that in, Benjamin. I appreciate that, man. All right, next up. Tyler Piffer writes, my favorite Mephisto tease is the number 666 upside down on the back of the toaster. I didn't even notice that. Also, Olsen killed it after Monica slipped up scary. Yeah, the performance is great. I don't think there would be a Mephisto thing in this unless Wanda is aware of Mephisto. But if we're right in our theory that these commercials are manifestation Wanda is making of the trauma, different periods of trauma in her life, then why, not knowing about Mephisto, she would put a Mephisto reference in one of those dreams? I don't know about that. Never know. Something for us to keep our eyes on, though. We will definitely keep our eyes open for that, Tyler. All right, Min Tran writes, maybe it's just me, but the opening reminded me of the sitcom opening when Gabriel taps Sam and Dean in the TV world. It's true. You don't know this, baby, because you didn't watch Supernatural with me. But there is a great, great episode of Supernatural when one of the angels is playing around with Sam and Dean and send them into a sitcom world. And Sam and Dean are living in a sitcom world. And it's great. Not as great as the Scooby-Doo episode. You never did watch that with me, did you?
I think I saw one of them.
Oh, there's a great Scooby-Doo episode where literally
Isn't there more than one?
Sam and Dean, there's just one where they get transported into a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's called Scuba Natural. One of the best episodes in television history. But anyway, yes, that did remind me a lot about that when Sam and Dean got transported. I miss Supernatural already. I know the series just ended, but I miss Supernatural already. All right. Thanks for that, Mintran. Next up, Dr. Panders writes, so is Sword in charge of Wanda's little dimension bubble, or is it Wanda's doing? That's the billion-dollar question right now, Doctor. And I think, like I said, I've gone back and forth. I'm leaning more towards this is Wanda's doing, But we've still got, 6 more episodes to go? I think we're going to go back and forth a lot more. Right now, if the only 2 choices, let's say there are 3 choices here. Sword, Mephisto, Wanda. I'm saying it's Wanda right now, but I could give a totally different answer in 2 weeks. But I'm saying Wanda. Right now, who's most in charge of this world right now?
How do you define in charge?
All right, who's kind of pulling the strings? Who's pulling the strings? Who's making this happen?
Sword. I think she's in charge of this world or this fictitious world that's happening, but I think Sword is orchestrating.
All right, let's keep moving on here. Next up, we've got Lucas Foster writes, I have no idea what's going on and I love it. There is an element of that, right? Like it's bringing you along, but they have given us no concrete answers and no way for us to come up with our own concrete theories. Even the theories I feel most confident in, I'm like, but that could change next week. They're doing a really good job of that moving forward.
I tend to think they are giving us the answers. And when they do the reveals, we're going to be like, oh my God, it was in her face the whole time.
Oh, I don't know. I think we'll see the hints, but I feel like they're not giving, I don't know, but that would be kind of crazy if they do at the end though. If they're able to pull that off at the end, that would be impressive. All right. Bryce Bradford writes, I want to catch you on the flip side version t-shirt. Catch you on the flip side, Vision. I want a Herb t-shirt. Okay,
I do like Herb.
I just want a Herb t-shirt. I just, yeah, give me that. But you know what?
What?
I don't think he's in any more episodes.
Oh.
When I looked at the IMDb page for WandaVision, I think last week, I think I saw that the actor was only in 2 episodes. I hope I'm wrong, because I really like the Herb character. I keep wanting to say Herb. I really do like the Herb character. I hope we see more of him, but I think we might have seen the last of him. All right, next up. Aces writes, this show setup gives me Cabin in the Woods kind of feel. Yeah, it does. For those of you who've seen Joss Whedon's Cabin in the Woods, it does have that kind of a feel to it, right? I don't know how to describe Cabin in the Woods. It's nothing like its trailers. You have to check it out. But if you've seen Cabin in the Woods, I think you will agree with what Aces just said there, because I think you're right, Aces. All right. Karum Potts writes, and sends in like a $35 super chat. Thank you so much, Karum, for supporting the channel on that level, man. Writes, hey, John and Ann. Well, what the F did I just watch? It was weird, mysterious, funny. I need more episodes. Also, the episode is definitely re-educating to fans that Wanda is not to be messed with. Bring out Endgame Wanda. I got a feeling we might be getting there.
Yeah.
Like one way or the other. I think somebody asked us last week, and that do we think the series will build up to an actual comic book movie style big battle?
Yeah.
Where we see Wanda and Vision wrecking shop, right?
Yeah.
And normally, yeah, that's where you end up. And I think we will at some point. But is it going to be Wanda wrecking shop in a good guy way? Or Wanda wrecking shop in a bad guy way now? Because she is scary. She's scary. And I'm starting to get worried about what happens when somebody just confronts her and says, Wanda, you're doing this. Stop this.
Sure.
And threatens her cocoon. I mean, I don't know. Or maybe she finds out she's in a trap. I don't know. There's so much. It's the $1 billion question right now about where is Wanda going to end up? But you're right, Karam. It's weird. It's mysterious. It's funny. They introduce mysteries and questions. We find ourselves like these little half-hour episodes, and here we are, like going down these rabbit trails of theories that build on top of other theories, and it's like Twin Peaks in the MCU. I don't know. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it so far. All right, next up. Thanks a lot for sending that in, Karam, and thanks for supporting our channel on that level, man. All right, Black Rice 19 writes, Wanda looked ready to kill Geraldine. I know I thought if I didn't see, let's put it this way. If I hadn't seen the trailer of Monica Rambeau flying out of the force field, if I hadn't already seen that trailer, I would have thought Wanda's about to kill her. I seriously would have thought that. Wanda looked ready to kill Geraldine when she mentioned Wanda scary. Do you think they are setting up Wanda to be an antagonist? Love the show. And again, well, thank you for that, Black Rice. Appreciate that. And yeah, that's kind of the way we're thinking, right? Like this weird theory that Rob and I had months ago that we're going to see Wanda be the antagonist, not just of the show, but maybe in Doctor Strange too. And I'm not saying this is, we've got 6 more episodes to go to totally change our minds, but it is starting to feel a little bit like they're setting her up as a broken person. And a lot of the best comic book villains don't start off as bad. They end up just being broken people.
Yep.
And that could be the way they're going. Let me ask you this, Ann, and you'll totally have the right to change your mind on this next week. But between 0 and 100%, right now, what percentage would you say is the chance that by the end of the final episode of WandaVision is looking like a villain?
100%.
Oh, you're like that sure about it, right?
Yeah.
Now. You're like, absolutely, there's no doubt. It's 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, I was not expecting that. I would say 52%.
Oh, okay.
But let's revisit that question next week. We'll
Sure.
revisit that question next week. All right, thanks for writing that in, Black Rice. Appreciate that. All right. We got people in the live chat. One saying 100%, one saying 50%. There we go. All right. Dr. Panders writes, was this the first time Wanda talked about Pietro Quicksilver since he died? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recall any other time in the MCU, whether it's Civil War or whether it's Infinity War. I don't think it's ever been brought up. I don't think they've brought it up since.
Yeah.
And so there was something which speaks to that, doesn't it? About her not being willing to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like the fact that she's there and she's looking down at her children, whether they're real or not, she's looking down at her children and thinking about her brother. It's the first time she speaks it out loud. And that's powerful when you think of it in those terms. Like it's already strong, but when you think of it in terms of this is the first time he's ever been mentioned since Age of Ultron.
What's the time passage of?
That's a good question. What do you guys, how much time has passed since Age of Ultron? Because it depends, like only so much time has passed from Age of Ultron to Civil War. And then how much time has passed from Civil War to Endgame? If you guys have any theories about that, like, is it real time? Is it like 5 or 6 years? Is it a little bit different? A bunch of you guys are saying 7 years, 8 years, 8 or 9 years, 5 years. Oh yeah, and don't forget, it's been 5 years since the snap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's that
At
too.
least,
so people
yeah.
saying 9 years, 3 years for her, 8
Yeah,
in
that's
real
a
life.
long time to not talk about that tragedy. So
Yeah, you guys in the live chat, some people are saying 10 years. I mean, it's, who knows? We'll have to see. But by the way, these events, we don't know when they could be happening. This could be before the events of
Sure.
Endgame.
Yeah.
I doubt it. Like,
yeah.
I saw one person have this theory that all of this is happening in whatever spiritual realm of existence the people who were snapped went to. So like in Infinity War, when Thanos snapped and, you know, Scarlet Witch was one of the people who got snapped away, I saw one theory that this whole thing is happening in that ether world. And it's all fantasy, and that it will end with her getting unsnapped and coming back into existence for Endgame. Now, I don't think that is actually what's happening, but it is another one of those really far out there theories that you never know. They could do something as crazy as that. All right, next up. Evelyn writes, I do wonder, was Vision is, because if he is Wanda's imagination, he wouldn't question the reality they are in. Is he real or not? See, the way I see this is that right now, here's what I think. I think Vision's not real, but she has remanifested him to think he's real. I think Vision thinks he is the real Vision. And as soon as he starts to pull on strings that will lead him to rationalizing out, I'm not the actual Vision, she puts a stop to it. She puts the brakes on and puts a stop to it. So that's kind of where I think they are right now on that, Evelyn. All right, next up. The CTB channel writes, Wanda's face right before she kicked Geraldine gave me the genuine creeps. Absolutely. It was similar to when she told Thanos, you will. Absolutely. Which is kind of why I thought she wasn't just going to kick Geraldine out. I thought she was going to kill her. And then I remembered the trailer. It's like, no, she's still alive. This is all good. Right before she wrecked him in Endgame. Yeah, it was it was the first hint to me that not only would she snap her fingers to set everything right, that she will take you out of her way if you threaten this reality she has created for herself. And maybe that's why S.W.O.R.D. is staying at a distance. Because they know if you interfere, and maybe that's why the people in her fantasy are scared of her.
Right.
That if we do anything to break character and she's not happy, if she goes back to being broken, sad Wanda, we could all be in trouble.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know. How do you see? Do you think that's the way they're going, or do you think it's something else? Or
yeah, no, I agree. I think there's some people that are their job is to contain her in that state, whatever frame of mind she's in right now. Until they figure out what to do.
Yeah, until they figure out what to do with her, because there's not much you can do with her. Okay, let's see here. It's all groovy writes. Hey, John and Ann, what do you make of the bee symbol? The beekeeper, and now in episode 3, the intro uses honeycomb shapes. Is it AIM? Again, I was kind of pushing the idea that it was AIM in the first episode, but the more I think about it, I don't think it is. Again, the key part is there's something that I missed the first time I watched the show, which was I missed that on the beekeeper's back specifically was the sword logo. And so at that point, I kind of abandoned the thing. And then somebody else reminded me, AIM has already been in the MCU, and they were kind of exposed and stopped in Iron Man 3. So right now, I wouldn't completely write it off as a possibility, but I have gone from really thinking it's AIM to now I'm kind of thinking it's not AIM. All right. Let's see. Next up, we've got KJ Criddle writes. Apparently, Monica Rambeau starts working with Randall Park's character, set pictures. So I'm very interested to what that entails. Well, we know Monica's still alive. We know Randall Park hasn't showed up yet. So I assume he is outside of the fantasy. Otherwise, we would have seen him already.
Sure.
So yeah, that does kind of make sense that we're going to see the two of them working together. I just like Randall Park.
Yeah, he's nice.
What was the name of the movie again? Always Be My Maybe?
Always Be My Maybe.
You both and I, we both like that movie. What's the name of the woman who was kind of like the lead of it? I think she wrote it too.
Oh my God.
She's an Asian comedian.
Yep.
And I forget her name.
I forget.
Keanu Reeves was in it. If you guys in the live chat remember, know what who was the co-star of Always Be My Maybe with Randall Park? Because he was great with her in that. Keanu Reeves was also fabulous in that. Ali Wong. Thank you, Michael Giles. I appreciate that. Ali Wong. If you guys have not seen Always Be My Maybe, it's really fun. If for no other reason, watch it because of Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves plays himself in it, and it's really, really charming. Thank you again also to Austin and Colby and Evelyn, all who wrote in Ali Wong's name in there. Thank you. All right. Jackmaster Nord writes, I'm hearing rumors that Mephisto is the big bad. Yeah, I mean, that's a common theory right now. I'm still not convinced of it, but that is a common theory that we've already talked about today and is running around. All right, next up, Rich Retro writes, the town and its denizens are Wanda. Herb and Agnes are suspicious of Monica at the same time Wanda does. So there's a different theory. Some people are thinking everybody in the town is captive. They're all real people. Now we've got another theory here from Rich Retro saying they are all extensions of Wanda. So I don't know. And maybe, I don't know, Rich. I mean, maybe that's true to a degree. And maybe Wanda can see everything that's happening in that world. And she knows everything that's happening in that world, much like the audience does in a sitcom. It's possible. Maybe. Don't know. We will find out, though, as the theories start to unfold even more. All right, next up. Evelyn writes, animals coming to life could be powers of the baby. Well, I mean, the stork didn't come. I mean, the stork came into being, right? The baby
just showed up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, could that be an extension of Wiccan? By the way, we don't know that the twins are going to be Wiccan and Speed, and we don't know that. It's a possibility, but that seems, I don't know. That seems weird. That the babies are already exerting their power. That's something they did in Supernatural. When Jack was still in the womb in Supernatural, he actually was able to protect his mother and stuff like that. I don't know if that's the way they're going to be going, but it's a possibility. It's a possibility. All right, good thought on that, Evelyn. Leo Liang writes, Could you remind me again how we know Geraldine's character is Monica Rambeau? Yes. There's a very key, important hint. I'll bring it up here now. The IMDb page, Teo Paris, Monica Rambeau, 8 episodes. So there you go. That is how we know she is. And I remember when they first cast her, it was announced that she was cast as Monica Rambeau, daughter of Maria Rambeau from Captain Marvel. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe.
Oh, so how old was she in Captain Marvel?
Wasn't she like.
She was a kid.
Yeah, wasn't she like 7 or.
So that should give us an idea of time too.
Yeah, because now she'd be what now? Like 35 or something?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Have to find out. But anyway, they announced her when the news first came out that she was cast. They said she was playing Monica Rambeau. She's listed in IMDb as Monica Rambeau. That doesn't 100% mean that, but I think it's a pretty safe assumption at this point. Good question though, Leo. Okay, next up. Lucky Dragon writes, the way Wanda said, "Oh, she left, honey," was very sinister. Is now the show going to be her heel turn? Here's the thing. To me, it wasn't just that it sounded sinister, and we kind of pointed this out a little bit early. She straight up lied to Vision, right? Like, she had not lied to Vision, like even breaking character for her own imaginary husband, if he is imaginary. And that to me is the biggest red light. That's the biggest flag to me. It's like, oh, okay, now she's just straight up lying to Vision. Oh, she had to leave, honey. All that kind of stuff. Do you think there's a commercial where Vision finds Agnes in the car dressed as a witch, and she's in some kind of trance, and Vision snaps her out of it, and she says, "Am I dead?" And he says, "No, why would you say that?" She says, "Because you are," and then laughs. But I mean, do you think Vision will just ultimately figure it out when he's away from Wanda, and he just figures it out? Could that be the thing that leads to the unraveling of the rest of the story? What do you think the chances of that are?
Well, yeah, I think they're definitely giving us glimpses of him questioning what's happening. So I can see that. I could see that happening. Yeah. I don't think they've been apart yet since the show started, right?
Well, I mean, he's gone to work, and he had to go get the doctor, and he went off to the neighborhood watch meeting. So yeah, they've been separated a number of times.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
But I just, I'm starting, like, maybe he's the one who actually puts all the pieces together. I mean, after all, the show is called WandaVision. It's not just Wanda.
Yeah.
So maybe Vision is the one to figure this whole thing out. Never know. Okay. We'll take a couple more questions, guys, and then we're going to take a quick break here because Ann and I have been going for almost an hour and a half already. All right. But you're right, Lucky Dragon. The way she said was totally freaky. Freaked you out. That's the supervillain origin story right there. All right. Black Rice 19 writes, Wanda looked like she wanted to kill Geraldine. Absolutely she did. When she mentioned Ultron. Do you think that they are setting up Wanda to be an antagonist? Love your show. And this has been one of the big themes. And thank you for loving the show, man. I appreciate that. That's been one of the theories, is that this is going to end. And it's a part of a bigger plan, not just WandaVision. It's about what then goes into Spider-Man 3. And we know Wanda is going to be a character in Doctor Strange 2. Is it as a co-hero like Hulk was in Thor Ragnarok? Or is she going to be the antagonist? And we're only at episode 3. Still a long way to go. But Anne seems to think 100% she's going to be. You are so sure about that.
I'm so sure about a lot of things in the show.
So sure, but
you have to be sure, because then when they come true, you're going to be like, I told you.
And you see where I get it from. Yes. I mean, I'm still iffy. But absolutely, Black Rice, it does kind of look like, it at least seems on the surface that that's the way the boat is floating. It seems like it's going that way. Whether they pull a fast one and put us back on track, we'll find out soon. All right, next up, Lucky Dragon writes, this episode solidified for me that the most of the people in Westview are real people. So there's another vote. Yeah. For thinking, so like another vote for you, honey. You think they're all real? I'm still a little iffy. I still think some of these are just fictitious characters. But again, going back to that whole theory that everybody in there, including the children, are all being held.
I think they're real. They just have all different roles. They're all different roles within this world.
Could be.
Captive.
Could be. Okay, next up, Saving Movie Night writes, I really hope the twins are Wiccan and Speed, not illusions. Outside of North Star and Iceman, Wiccan is the one of the most prominent gay characters in the comics. I want the representation. Well, listen, we've already heard Kevin Feige said that they've got plans for representation in the MCU. That made a lot of people think of North Star, which, would be great because then there's a little bit of an Alpha Flight connection there. Canada represent. So, I mean, that's possible. Again, I just don't think, unless that crazy theory of yours, honey, that she's been pregnant the whole time and only showed it in
100%.
I'm more 100%. 100%. Everything. That's our key phrase today. 100%. I mean, yeah, it could be. I don't think this is it though. I think it's coming, but I don't think this is it. But again, ask me again after episode 4 and I could have a completely that's the beautiful thing about this show. It's making you jump your own theories like constantly.
What would the pregnancy then be a vision of for her then, if it wasn't a real pregnancy, in your opinion? Is it to remind her she's a twin of a set of twins?
See, I think there's two parts to it. I think if the children are fantasy and illusion, which is what I'm leaning towards right now, it's two things. One, it's a experience of joy and happiness, which is what she's trying to give herself in these fantasies, right? So it's a life event of joy and happiness. But then the twin part is exactly what you just said. It's the fact that she was a twin and now she had twins. So I think it is part of the illusion. Now, again, your theory is wild. The idea that she didn't just get pregnant and then had kids in 8 hours. She was actually pregnant this whole time, but didn't allow that to be a part of the fantasy. And now that she was getting ready to give birth, it has to be incorporated into the fantasy. I still don't know where she got a bucket of robo sperm, but to make that happen. But I mean, right now with the MCU, anything is possible. All right, next up.
Hold on. Ultron had kids. Let's just talk about that. So
Ultron didn't have kids. What are you talking about?
In the Runaways, he has a kid.
Oh, well, see, I didn't.
He has like a half kid.
I read like 3 chapters of Runaways. You read all.
Yeah,
the Runaways.
so I'm like,
Ultron
hey,
has a kid.
If Ultron can have a kid, yo,
Ultron
Vision
had
can have a
in
kid.
Runaways? Seriously?
Yeah, he had a kid.
How did they explain that? How's that a part of it?
Why do you have to explain it? He just had a kid.
Why? Well, actually, that's the biggest truism of any comic book thing. Why do you have to explain it?
Anyway, sorry, I digress. But...
but we'll get to this again a little bit later. But Plot Twisties just sent in a super chat that says, I absolutely love Anne and her theories 100%. So
100%.
Just 100%. Everything's 100%. Okay, let's keep going here. That was... Oh, did we have it? Did we jump here? Are we in the right spot? Oh, that was Saving Movie Night with the twins. It's all groovy, writes. Does this show remind you of that Twilight Zone episode of the kid with power? I was just referencing that of the kid with powers and his family and friends who have to play along or else. I was just great minds. I was just thinking about that exact same thing. Yes, it absolutely makes me think of that all groovy. It absolutely makes me think of all that. And everybody in the chat board right now is 100%. So, yeah, 100%. It made me think about that Twilight Zone episode. It definitely did. And everybody's got to keep, everything's wonderful. And you got that feeling from Catherine Hahn in that moment, right? It's all groovy. I totally got that. 100%. 100%. Alexander Kent writes, poor Wanda. She is always being held back or as a prisoner. Strucker, Ultron, Vision, Civil War, and Thanos, the Gauntlet. I agree. She becomes the villain. The best villains in comic books are the ones who are rooted in being broken people. There's tragedy to it. There's something Shakespearean about it. And if that's what they're setting up, maybe her becoming a villain and then ultimately maybe a big redemption arc. Maybe like, I mean, I'm talking out of my ass here, obviously, but maybe in Doctor Strange, it's about Doctor Strange not just trying to stop Wanda, but to save Wanda and bring her back. I mean, I don't. Again, I got nothing to base that on. That's just totally wild theory. Is that 100%, honey? Is that what's going to happen, or But you're still convinced she's going villain. What's that?
I said 52%.
52%. 52%. That's what we're going with on that. All right, guys. Last question we're going to take before we, Ann and I are going to take a short break here because we've been going an hour and a half. A bathroom break is required. I need to refill my drink, all that good stuff. SC, as we mentioned earlier, sent in his $10 super chat in the live chat just to be supportive. Thank you, SC. Appreciate that. All right, last one we're going to ask in this first half of the show comes to us from Big Boy Trent, who writes, the stork was the painting on the wall in the baby's room brought to life. Yes, we know that. Like the butterflies near the beginning of the episode. But we understood that. We got that. But what's the deal? Why is it coming to life? Like, why is Wanda manifesting that stork?
And then if she can't get rid of it either.
Yeah, and can't get rid of it. And if it's not Wanda, why is somebody else manifesting the stork? I mean, like, is it a manifestation of a biological imperative of her mind, her subconscious telling her conscious, the babies are coming? Maybe. I mean, if you want to get that meta with it, I'm not sure it goes that meta, but maybe it is. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, thanks for that, Big Boy Trent. All right, guys. Ann and I are going to take a short break here. Like I said, we're going to gas up, give you guys a chance. Go grab something to eat, grab a drink, use the bathroom yourselves. We'll give it about 5 or 6 minutes, and then we'll be back and continuing on with this WandaVision, Episode 3, open spoiler discussion. We're so glad you're joining us here, guys, on the John Campea Show. By the way, just before we go anywhere, I want to remind you guys, hey, if you're relatively new around here, maybe this is your first time visiting, maybe you're a regular, but you haven't done so yet, why don't you take a second and click on that subscribe button, become a subscriber to the YouTube channel. It'll keep you up to date on all the things we've got going on around here. And so, yeah, in the meantime, guys, we're going to take a break, and we will be right back. We'll see you in just a few minutes. Okay, everybody, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as we took a little bit of a break there. And now let's keep things right on rolling with your comments, questions, talking about WandaVision, Season 1, Episode 3. Let's keep on going here. Tyler writes in, Monica is the worst undercover agent ever. Yeah, well, it just seems like she was almost under the spell as well, right? Like, because once, it wasn't until Wanda brings up her brother that it almost looks like Monica had this realization, like he was killed by Ultron, right? So I don't know, but maybe it's just that simple. Maybe Monica is just simply the worst undercover agent ever. All right, next up, Brian Pentoja writes, I hope they bring back Quicksilver. I mean, I just don't know. Maybe they will. After all, this is the Marvel fake death universe. At some point, I wouldn't doubt it if we see Aaron Taylor Johnson come back in as Quicksilver. Some people still think Evan Peters is going to show up as the X-Men Quicksilver. I don't think they're going to do that. But Aaron Taylor Johnson is a possibility. Never know. I mean, if she can manifest Vision and have Vision there one way or another, why not her brother? All right, let's see. Next up, Dominic Suma writes, this show will be great to rewatch after we see every episode and are aware of the end. I'm sure there are even more clues than we are even recognizing. You were saying that exact same thing.
Yep.
You were saying, for those of you who might have missed it, Anne was saying a little bit earlier that she kind of thinks that we are going to hit a place here where we're going to look back and say, oh, all this was so obvious. So,
yeah, I feel like it's silly to think that now, but I do think with the reveal, we're going to say, oh my gosh, they put more in our faces than we even thought.
It's like, oh, they totally showed us this is a yeah, maybe. Have to wait and find out. All right, thanks for that, Dominic. Next up, Benjamin GL writes, the kid in the soap commercials is Pietro. The soap commercial, like the one in 3, I don't know, because there was a girl, there was a daughter, and I don't know about that, Benjamin. I'm going to say I disagree with you on that, but
I have to see it again.
Yeah, I'm only disagreeing after 3 episodes. Like after we see episodes 4, 5, and 6, maybe I'll have to totally change my mind because I do think the 2 adults are her parents, but I could be wrong about that too. Nice observation. Coop TV writes, hey, big fan, and did you see Superman and Lois trailer? We're here to talk about WandaVision. I appreciate you asking the question, but it would be unfair to everybody else if we deviate from that. So we're here specifically to talk about WandaVision. But thank you for asking anyway. And no, I didn't see it and I'm not interested. All right, Casual Cups writes, in Infinity War, Shuri was trying to find a way to keep Vision alive without the stone. Yes. Maybe Wanda is powering Vision's dead body, which is why he has consciousness. Well, here's the problem with that theory. Dead is dead. And Shuri was never able to complete her process. That's the thing. That was the big point, that she was forced to stop the process. And then, of course, he died twice. The other problem with it is he needs the Infinity Stone in his head. And the Infinity Stone was destroyed. And there's an Infinity Stone in his head. And so, yeah, I don't think that's the case. I think he is a pure manifestation. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's a lot of these theories that sound crazy, but we could very well have them proved out by the time we move a little bit further into the show. So let's keep our eyes open. If it does happen, Casual Cups, I will remember your comment. All right. Black Rice 19's right. Black Rice 19 writes, do you think the twins and Vision will carry over into MCU proper, or are they part of the illusion and not real? Okay, so we know that Wanda is going to be in Doctor Strange 2. There's been no mention of Paul Bettany. That doesn't mean anything because maybe that's just them keeping a secret. My guess right now, and I totally reserve the right to change my mind after we see episodes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and on. My guess right now is no, we will not see the kids and we will not see Vision after WandaVision. That's my guess right now. And what is your 100% feeling on this? Do we see Vision and the kids after WandaVision season 1?
I think Vision is not going to manifest after the show. I believe the babies are real.
And you believe, again, yes, right. That, of course, you believe the babies are real. All right, there we go. All right, next up. Benjamin GL writes, I think Agent Park was in the helicopter with a megaphone. That isn't a bad theory either, but that would mean Park is inside the world now. I like what somebody else said a little bit earlier, that Monica came into the world in the helicopter, because I don't think we saw her prior.
No, she was new.
Right? Because we saw her at the talent show.
Yeah.
And I think the helicopter, I think Elizabeth Olsen discovers the helicopter prior to the talent show. So I like that one viewer's theory that Monica actually literally came in on a helicopter, and that was the helicopter that they found.
Yeah, I like that too.
Don't know that for sure, but I do like the theory right now. All right, next up. Ian Wendu writes, I don't think S.W.O.R.D. are keeping her captive. Remember the last episode where the radio voice is asking, who's doing this to you? I think that's a very important point. Who's holding you? Who's doing this, Wanda? And if that's S.W.O.R.D., but what if that's not S.W.O.R.D.? What if Agent Park, or what if Randall Park, who is Agent Wu? I can't remember. What if he's not part of S.W.O.R.D.? I mean, he probably is. But that's just a great observation. That's probably a good indication that it's not S.W.O.R.D., because S.W.O.R.D. is trying to figure out what's happening.
Sure.
Who's doing this to you, Wanda, or is she actually doing it to herself? That's a really good observation, Ian. All right, next up. Michael Preston writes, you said Wanda killed all the humans, but didn't she say no more mutant killing? Let's try this again. You said Wanda killed all the humans. When did I say Wanda killed all the humans? But didn't she say no more mutants killing most of mutant kind? And will this power be represented in WandaVision? I'm not quite sure what it is you're talking about, Michael. I have no recollection of saying one thing, and I certainly in the movies, I don't know what you're talking about there. I don't know if you're making a comic book reference, but if so, you need to phrase your thoughts there a little more clearly, because I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking there. Sorry about that, Michael. I apologize for that, but I just don't know what it is you're asking about. All right, Juno Faulkner writes, I think the weird stuff going on in the episode, like the stork not going away, was because Tommy, aka Wiccan, was using his powers in the womb. Well, that's a second thing, but that assumes a lot.
Yeah.
It assumes, one, that the kid is already completely sentient and self-aware and understands the world and knows what a stork is and all that kind of stuff. Also, it's assuming that the kids are real, which you say is 100%. I'm not so convinced of that. So it makes a lot of assumptions. It makes a lot of assumptions. So I don't know. Do you have any other theories about what the stork could be? Like, is it her own subconscious manifesting the delivery of children, or could it be something else? Like, where's your head at right now as far as like what was going on with the stork?
I don't have a theory. I don't have a theory for that. I can't think of anything, even if it's outlandish. I have no idea what that symbolism is.
All right. Next up, that was Juno Faulkner. All right. James Bonner writes, stork represents delivery of baby. Yes, we understand that. Old school myth about childbirth. Yeah, no, totally understand that. That's why we get why she painted it on the wall. I get that. But what was with it becoming manifested into a real bird that she tried to hide from Monica?
Yeah.
Again, there is a theory, if I want to go really far out there, that it was Wanda's subconscious saying to her conscious mind, the baby is coming, and manifested the bird, maybe, or maybe some people have a theory that it was the fetuses one of the fetuses that was making it happen and trying to I mean, there's a lot of theories like that, but yeah, on the basic level, the stork is the symbol of the arrival of a baby. That's why she painted on the wall. But why did it manifest? And why couldn't she just make it disappear like that? That's the bigger question that I'm sure they'll get into as we get a little bit further. Thanks for that, James. Appreciate that, man. Daniel Herring writes, sends in a $15 super chat tip. Thank you so much for that, Daniel. Appreciate that, man. Hey, John, at 27 minutes and 1 second of the show, on the Welcome to Westview sign, the second brown square is the X-Men logo. I'll go and look at that. I doubt it. It's probably something that maybe looks like it, or it could be a fun little thing, but we do know that Kevin Feige is not bringing in X-Men yet. That much we know, I think. At least he's saying that. He's saying that, but maybe he's pulling a fast one. But I doubt that's actually there. Maybe it just looks like it, or maybe it's just a fun little Easter egg. Or maybe it's something deeper, Daniel. Maybe it's something deeper. I have to go and take a look at that. Do me a favor, if you guys know what it is Daniel's talking about, Can you, just so I don't have to look for it later, can you take a screenshot of that and email it to me at john@thejohncampeashow.com? I would like to see that and see what I think about that myself. All right. Maniac Madness 11 writes, John, isn't it possible for Vision to be alive? If I'm not mistaken, didn't Shuri separate his consciousness from the Mind Stone in Infinity War? No, she was trying to.
Yeah.
She was trying to. Plus, it creates other problems. If his consciousness had been separated, then how could he run around then? How could he get up off the table and run around and save everybody and then confront him at the end? If his consciousness was now somewhere else, how is he there? Also, his consciousness, she was trying to make it so his consciousness could survive without the stone. That was the main thing she was doing. She wasn't trying to pull his consciousness out of his body. She was trying to basically reprogram in a way that the stone can be gone and he can continue. However, we saw as soon as Thanos pulled the stone out of his head, he was dead. So, I mean, is it possible? It's possible, but it would have to represent MCU retconning what they told us in the movie so far.
Right. And
that becomes problematic. So possible, yes, but I think pretty unlikely at this point. But we'll have to see. All right. Was that Maniac Madness? Yes, that was Maniac Madness. Thanks for writing in that thought, man. Benjamin GL writes, her contractions made the stork from pain. Do you think that could be it? Like just her being in pain? I mean, listen, she was having pain and washing machines were going off and, you know, the lights were going on and off and all that kind of stuff. And obviously when her water broke, it represented in the sprinkler system breaking or whatever. Do you think just her pain... And she was thinking about, babies because of pain, and that manifested the stork?
You know what? Yeah, that's probably the best theory I've heard so far, is that just her mind was going in all different directions as she was actually giving birth. And she manifested the things that were around. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, that's not, you know what? That's not a bad
It still doesn't
theory.
explain why it wouldn't go away when she tried to make it go away, though.
True. Yeah, but still not a bad theory, Benjamin. Let's keep our eyes on that. Spencer Smothers writes, the stork, the butterflies, the kitchen scene, all done by magic from one of the children when they were kicking or during the contractions. Again, you're not alone, Spencer. A bunch of people are writing in that they think it was the unborn children doing it. I don't buy that. I think that's a little bit too much of a stretch, so I'm not buying into that theory. But they very well could be. I mean, they could say that and the next thing looks, if they do what they did with their development, I mean, who knows? By episode 5, they could be young teenagers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they continue that growth spurt, and maybe they'll tell their mom, that was us that did that. I mean, I don't know. It's possible. What do you think the chances are that all the wild stuff, the lights, the power, the stork, that was actually the fetus doing that? I don't think it was, but do you think there's a chance that could be it?
It would explain why she couldn't get rid of it, I guess. It would be the only reason why I would believe that theory. I don't know. All
right. Let's move on here. We've got Ryan Loner who writes, Coulson was right. Hydra controls people through blue soap. I can't remember that particular episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't remember what's going on. I'm going to assume at some point Coulson said that. I did see the entire series, but I have no recollection of that line. Anyway, thanks for the throwback in there, Ryan. Moon 7 Willow writes, what if the whole Agnes equals Agatha Harkness thing is a red herring? Yeah, I mean, that's what I suggested. So there are a bunch of people who think Agnes is actually Agatha Harkness. There are some reasons to believe that. The brooch, the witch outfit, all that kind of stuff. It's there. But I do kind of think right now it's all a red herring. I think it's all misdirection. I think it's like a little bit of a wink and a little bit of Easter eggism in the show, but I don't think she's actually going to end up being Agatha Harkness. I was saying Agnes Harkness the other day too, myself. But so yeah, I think you're right, Moon 7. I think you're right, but we will see. All right, next up, Sam Fisher writes, the man is in the new One commercial. He's waving a palm leaf in the final moments. Oh, I didn't realize that because I was saying, you know, the thing is in this new commercial, it's just the mom and you see some kids running around the background. But I didn't even notice that the man's waving the palm leaf in the final moments. Didn't even realize that. But then that goes again to the theory that these represent her parents. Maybe we're right. Maybe we're wrong, but thank you for pointing that out, Sam. I appreciate that, man. Many eyes gains more wisdom. All right. Aces writes, are there studio cameras in this world? Maybe. Do we hear an audience laugh? Where's that sound coming from? And can the people hear it or just Wanda? Well, here's the thing. This is total speculation. If she is bringing to life the sitcoms, the American sitcoms she watched as a little girl, they never saw the studio audience. Like
Right.
when you watch the sitcoms, you don't see the studio audience. So I would guess Wanda does not see a studio audience in the world. The world is real to her.
Sure.
So, but just like in the shows, you hear the laugh track and you hear the ahs and all that kind of, she's hearing it too, but she's not seeing the audience. And so, yes, I am guessing that the other people in the world hear the audience response as well. What's your theory on that? Do they or don't they?
I think they hear it, but in like a production sense, that there's not actually people there watching them do a live performance. And it kind of brings me back to the end of what is it, the first or second episode, where I think it's the first episode, where you see the kind of producer like behind the scenes shutting the episode down.
I think that was a sword agent watching from the outside and seeing things happening in there. I don't know. Could be wrong about that though, but that's my theory. All right, next up. Alexander Kent writes, Wanda has literally had no life since her childhood. It's true. Lost her family. Her and her brother have kind of been on the thing. They get subjected to the experiments of Strucker. Then they become these things. You're right. I mean, her life is a story of tragedy. Even after she joins the Avengers, her life is a story of tragedy. And yeah, I think that's going to become a very important key part of this story as it moves forward. James Argento writes, I still think Agnes is a villain, but she knows she can't beat Wanda in a fight, so she plays along and using Wanda for her and her allies' benefit. That's totally a possibility. Again, right now, I'm kind of on the boat that terrified look on her face tells me she's as much stuck in this as everybody else is. But could be wrong. Could be wrong. We'll find out for sure here soon, James. All right, Benjamin GL writes, base design at Westview is same. The base design at Westview is same shields in Thor 1.
Same as shields in Thor
Same
1.
as the shield base in the first Thor.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't remember that. That could be. It could be. I mean, yeah, let's keep our eyes on that. That could be a thing to look out for, Benjamin. Next up, It's All Groovy writes, what do you make of Vision having super speed? I don't remember him doing that before. I think Vision has a lot of superior abilities. Super strength, flight, speed, blasting from his thing. Like, listen, in the comics, Vision is an insanely powerful character. Like, really, like he's alpha level powerful character. So, yeah, I don't remember him showing off super speed in the movies before, but I do believe in the comics that is one of his abilities that they haven't touched on yet. So, yeah, to me, I didn't blink at it. I didn't blink once when he was showing off super fast speed. So I think that's just kind of built in there. All right, good question though. It's All Groovy. All right, the Gixer73 writes, is it possible that Monica got pulled out by the people on the outside since we never see what happened? So the people on the outside, Sword, monitoring from the outside, from that producer's bench, sees she's in danger and is in trouble, and they pull her out. That suggests a couple of things. One, that they had the ability to pull her out, which seems unlikely. Two, that they could just casually pull her out through that force shield.
I think Wanda did it.
I think Wanda did it too. But I mean, they do raise a good point. Gixer raises a good point. We don't actually see her blowing Monica out, right? We don't actually see it happening.
Do we have to? When she can kind of manipulate things in that way?
Yeah, I don't think we had to. I think it was clearly implied that it was Wanda that did it.
Yeah.
Not to mention Wanda's
she's moved her before in the magic trick.
True. Yes. This was a little different though. She could just make her disappear and appear, but I don't know. Again, it's the whole way she so creepily and lied to Vision. Oh, she had to leave. Yeah, so I suppose there's a possibility there, Gixer, but I don't believe that. I think Wanda did it. I think Wanda expelled her out of the fantasy, if you will. Mm-hmm. All right. Where are we? Mary Sadai writes, alternative theory. Wanda gets upset when Vision almost sees that she is manipulating people because he wouldn't approve. I don't think it's because she's worried that he wouldn't approve. I don't think she wants him realizing that he's not real. because that breaks her fantasy.
Yeah.
I think she is trying to keep this artificial Vision from becoming aware
Sure.
of what's going on.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Look, do you think he's real?
I said he's in a box.
That's right. He's a box kind of guy. So there's that too. So yeah, I don't think it's because he wouldn't approve. I think it's because she's trying to protect her own thing there. It's not about him not approving. She doesn't want him to become aware.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And because once he becomes aware, that destroys the fantasy. The fantasy's done. All right, but let's keep an eye on that, Mary. D-Men05 writes, I like the first 2 episodes, but this is the one I'm hooked now. I got chills when Wanda talked about Pietro. Damn, Olsen is a hell of an actress. She absolutely is. You know, I was telling people that, listen, I'm not going to give it away, but episode 3 is the one where they just start to turn the corner a little bit more, where they get more into the creepiness and they get more into there's something wrong in this world. And we start to get a little bit more of a picture of what's going on. I know you really love the first 2 episodes. I will say for me, the 3rd episode has been the best episode so far. Where does it rank for you and why?
Oh, I still like the first one. I ate up that period of
that whole intro thing.
They did it so well, making you believe that they were in that era, and the way that they pulled off the dialogue and the jokes it hit me. But I think for what everybody else is looking for, I can understand why episode 3 has quickly become everyone's favorite episode of the series. I think for me, it's still number 1.
Still the first episode. For me, it is episode 3, and cannot wait to see episode 4. All right. Next up, where are we at now? We are at, that was D-Men. Next one is Sebastianos Lyondes writes, our family are longtime fans since the AMC days. Thank you so much for that. Love your movies. Love your movie as well. Thank you so much for watching my movie. Thank you. A lot to unpack. Speed and Wiccan are canon. Not in the movie, they're not. In the MCU, they're not. Never forget that the comic books and the movie, the comic books and the MCU are 2 totally different things. They have nothing to do with each other. Never, ever forget that. Our canon, Agnes and Herb are on the same page. I agree with that. Monica and Sword are opposed. Think so? You think they're opposed? It seemed to me like they were working together. Anyway, Wanda has control, Vision alive. Wow. I mean, yeah, there's so much to unpack there. And by the way, Sebastianos tipped in $25. Thank you so much for supporting the channel on that level, man. We appreciate that. But yeah, there is a massive amount to unpack. No doubt. Herb and Agnes being on the same page. I never thought that before. This episode makes me think that. Monica and Sword are opposed. I don't think I agree with that. I think that's her team. I think she got blown out of the reality, and I think that was her team closing in to support her. Even though they had guns out, because this is just something that came out, I don't think she's a prisoner there. I think she's on their side. But we will find out in episode 4 for sure. Wanda has control. I think so. Vision alive. I don't think so. But you're right, man. There's so much to unpack there. It is absolutely crazy. All right. Thanks for sending that in. Appreciate that. And thank you again for checking out my movie. I really appreciate that, man. All right. Next up, Mary Sadai writes, regarding 2 Hydra mentions commercials in TV Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra had tech to put S.H.I.E.L.D. agents in a smaller pocket universe. Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with this. I think for one big important reason, I don't think Kevin Feige ever cared for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't think Kevin Feige never has brought anything from S.H.I.E.L.D. into the MCU. I don't think he ever will. And not to mention, I don't think we're going to see Hydra at play here. Hydra has been, let's put it this way too. I will be very disappointed in the MCU if they make this another Hydra thing. How many times are they going to defeat Hydra, only to have them come back again? But John, the Hydra is the multi-head dragon. Cut off one head, 2 more shall take its place. I know, I get that. But at some point, you got to say enough's enough. So, and you never know. You never know. Let's keep our eyes open. Kevin Feige's pulled a lot of weird curveballs on us before. Maybe that'd be it, but I really don't think that's going to be the case here. All right. Plot Twisties writes, I really think Wanda's scene in Endgame, where she confronts Thanos, plays very heavily into Wanda's current state completely. I believe it was the first sign Well, plot twist said, okay, I believe it was the first sign of her break from grief to insanity. That endgame scene plays so differently and much scarier to me now that we have seen her loss on reality. You know what? Somebody else wrote into my show the other day, Ann, and said basically that. They said they went back to watch after watching the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, they went back into the MCU to watch the Wanda and Vision story. So, they watched Age of Ultron, they watched Civil War, they watched Infinity War and Endgame again. And now I have I haven't done that, but I have a feeling they're probably right. I bet now if we go back and watch that with the perspective and context of we see her totally broken now.
Yeah.
I bet we see her in a totally different way.
Yeah.
On that kind of
I feel like
surface.
that's what a lot of these shows that are coming out are going to do. It's going to make you want to go back and kind of rewatch that particular character's story arc to see what how it's evolved, essentially. And
right. And maybe
I would
change
wanna
the way
do that
we even
too.
perceive
Yep.
what was going on. Maybe seeing her being totally broken now will change our perception of even that whole confrontation with Thanos, a thing that was the break. I like the way you put that, plot twisties. That was the break from her just going from grief to insanity. I mean, maybe, could be. All right, thanks for writing that in, plot twisties. Michael Myers just sends in a super chat badge. Thank you so much, Michael Myers. Appreciate that. Patrick Conway writes, do you think Fury recruited Wanda into S.W.O.R.D. after Endgame? No. She got sent on a mission against Hydra in Sokovia. No. That goes wrong and she breaks down. No.
0%.
There is 0%. Yeah, no, I think no to all of those things. Like, do I believe Nick Fury is still active in this world? Where we're supposedly getting a Nick Fury show on Disney Plus sometime in 2022, 2023. So I believe he's still involved. We of course saw him at the end with the Skrulls, so there's that too. But no, I don't think he recruited her as an agent, and I don't believe you guys have already heard me say I really don't believe Hydra's playing any role in this. Again, that would be just beating a dead horse, going back to the well way too many times with Hydra. They've done Hydra, they've been there, they've done that many times already. They've got to let that go. So I'm going to say no, but again, like we said before, Patrick, crazier things, and let's keep our eye open and see what happens. All right. D-Man05 sends in a $20 tip. Thank you, D-Man, for supporting the channel on that level, man. And D-Man05 writes, sorry, really excited, so here's more money, LOL. Also, I think the Mephisto rumors are true, but I think it'll be revealed in the post-credits to the season leading into Doctor Strange, where that character makes more sense. Mephisto does make more sense in the Doctor Strange universe, but remember, this doesn't lead into Doctor Strange. Kevin Feige has told us that Spider-Man 3 is a part of this story. It's one of the parts of the 3-part story, and that's the next step, right? So right now, again, I'm completely open to Mephisto maybe coming in at some point, but right now I still don't think so. Again, my mind could be totally changed by episode 4, but right now I still don't think so. And again, we got to keep in mind that there's another movie coming before Doctor Strange. A lot of us, understandably, because Doctor Strange fits this whole motif, but we're acting as if that WandaVision ends and then Doctor Strange is about to begin. Doctor Strange ain't coming out for a while, and we've got that Spider-Man as that other chapter in between. We got to keep that in mind.
Did they say it's sequential, though? Like, who's to say these stories are not happening at the same time?
Like, happening out of order?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the way they normally do it in the MCU. So, I mean, I don't know. It would become very confusing for them, I think. It would become very confusing for them, for audiences, if they start telling this whole thing out of order. I mean, I guess it's possible. I just don't see Kevin Feige doing it that way. Do you? You think that's where you're
I don't know. Like, I think
100%?
Stories don't typically need to be linear and on a sequential, like, chronological order. They could all be in some ways happening at the same time and woven into each other. But I'm just saying that.
I don't know. They
Who
seem
knows?
to be playing these things out. I don't know. I guess it's possible. I just feel like it'd be really weird to take a movie that's coming out in like 8 months and saying it happens before the events of WandaVision. And then another movie that comes out over a year from now becomes the next thing in that. In the meantime, we have a whole bunch of other MCU stuff that's coming out. Black Widow, Falcon Winter Soldier, Shang-Chi, all these types of things that are now completely removed time-wise from what's going on there. I don't know. It could get very messy very quick. I don't know. Well, maybe. Anything's possible, though. Anything's possible. All right. Thanks for that, D-Man. Next up, Donaldo Martinez just sends in a super chat to be supportive. Thank you, Donaldo. The Alpha Nerd writes, do you think that AIM could be involved? I was thinking about the Beekeeper and AIM scientists, the Beekeeper looking uniforms, plus there's Hexagon, which is their symbol. So Alpha Nerd, you're obviously coming in a little bit late on the show. We've covered the AIM stuff. I did think AIM was a part of it. But then if you watch more carefully, because somebody pointed this out to me, when the Beekeeper comes in, the Beekeeper is wearing a sword logo. So that was a sword agent. That wasn't an AIM agent. Not to mention, as somebody else pointed out to me, because I'd completely forgotten about this, that AIM had already kind of been dismantled in Iron Man 3. But again, anything's possible. We'll have to see. But I think the AIM thing has kind of been debunked. Mostly because, again, that Beekeeper was wearing a giant sword logo on their back. So I'm kind of thinking AIM isn't a part of it. But again, never know. Let's see how we feel once we get into episodes 4 and episodes 5. All right. Casinema Reviews writes, when Monica says he, Pietro, was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? I half expect a Wanda TL. Why did you say that name? Like Pat Fleck. Well, remember, she's not the one who... Oh, Ultron. That's right. Why did you say that name? What did you say, Ultron? Again, creepy ass scene though. And that whole Martha joke never gets old, does it, Cinema? Never gets old. All right, next up. Extant Crab writes, I feel like Wanda's behind it all, and the clue is in the name. Wanda's vision. I mean, I don't know. Is it like right there, Anne? Is that what?
I'm looking at your logo behind.
You're looking at the logo that we got right here on the television here. It's just WandaVision. But I mean, you were okay. To be fair, you were saying earlier, there's no S in there.
No.
But you were saying earlier that when it's all said and done, you think we're going to look back and say all the clues were right there in front of us in plain sight.
Yeah.
Could the title
I
of the show
Don't get me wrong. I started to think that today.
Really?
I'm like, okay, so I'm very slow to some of these things. And now watching the show and looking back at the marketing, I'm like, okay, that's awesome. Makes sense that it was black and white to color. Two different worlds, however you want to look at that. And then the name Wanda could be her vision. It could be Wanda and Vision. It could be something else.
Wanda's vision.
Yeah, I think it's all going to unravel, and I think there's just some very, very witty and smart and clever people behind everything that's happening with the show right now.
All right. Well, listen, speaking of clever and witty, Ann Campea, my wife, the clever and witty, she has things she has to get to. We've been going for like almost 2.25 hours already. She has things she needs to do. So, Ann, thank you for being here with us again, and we'll see you, of course. By the way, I don't know how we're going to do a WandaVision spoiler next week. We got to figure it out because a week from today, Ann and I are moving.
We either do it late or we stay up super late on Thursday.
Before the move.
And just pre-record one.
But all my gear is going to be out of here by Thursday.
Oh, you're
night.
right.
So I don't know. Happening. We'll try to figure out how
do it on the phone.
Maybe we'll have to do it Saturday once we get everything assembled and put in. Anyway, we will do a WandaVision episode 4 spoiler review. We will. I'm just not exactly sure if we're going to, I don't know. Maybe we'll have everything set up and ready to go Friday afternoon to do it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's
I don't know.
Point.
Anyway, baby,
yes.
You are lovely and beautiful 100%.
100%.
100%. Thanks for being here, baby. And where can people follow you and all of your adventures online?
You guys can follow me by my name at Ann Campea. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. I also have a cosplay only Instagram, Ann Cosplays.
And Cosplays.
I have a new website called theeverydaypm.com. But it's all project management stuff. So maybe not for everybody, but it is interesting too.
Should we tell people about your new job or do you want to keep that for now?
Let's wait.
Okay, we'll wait. We'll wait. Sorry. Shouldn't have even mentioned anything.
Next week.
but it's very exciting.
100% we'll share it.
100% we'll share it next week because it's very exciting. All right, baby. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you later. That is Ann Campea, ladies and gentlemen, my wonderful and talented 100% wife. But for now, guys, listen, we're going to keep going answering the questions, but I've got to ask, and this is really weird, a really weird question to ask when you do these live shows and all this kind of stuff. I have to ask now that we not send in any more questions. I have to ask that we not send in any more questions because I only have another 45 minutes because I have a very important meeting at 7 o'clock. It is 6:12 p.m. My time, and I've only got about 45 minutes left, and I want to try to get through every question that's been sent in. I don't want to have to put off any of the questions till later. You guys sent them in now. I want to try to get them answered now, but please do not send in any more questions. If you see somebody send in a question, please quickly jump in and say, hey, guys, just John's asked us not to send in any more questions because I want to try to answer them all. All right, that down. We got a lot to go. Let's keep this bus rolling, and we get into it here with... we already got to plot twisties, so we're good on that. Aaron Parketh writes, China no like devil in their media, no Mephisto. Disney Plus isn't in China, is it? I don't think Disney Plus is in China, so I don't even think that's a thing of concern for them. I could be wrong about that. But I don't even think they're in there, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's a good thing to keep in mind, though. All right, Richard Fairhurst writes, the whole show is all for the children from the start. Mrs. Hart was shocked that they didn't have any children yet. True, but remember, that would have been a common trope of that era as well, right? Because at the time, the whole purpose of women was to have dinner for their husbands ready at home and to bear children for their husbands. That was kind of the media picture that they said. So I'm not sure that is necessary something, but again, the whole creepy way, all of them at the whole fundraiser were for the children. Maybe this whole thing is about the children being her children. I don't know. It is something we have to watch on because it is clear. I mean, it's clearly something. The for the children thing is clearly something. Whether it's referencing Wanda's kids or not is still something that's up in the air, but there's definitely something there at any point. All right, let's move on. That was Richard. Next up, Joshua Rako writes, hey, John, my favorite line so far is that how mirrors work. Shut up, Beverly. Gets me every time. I don't even remember when did that happen? I don't remember that. Which episode was that in? I don't remember. To me, my favorite line right now just might be, does this make me look fat? Lights go out. Oh, thank God. Yeah, everybody's saying it happened in episode 2. I don't remember. Is that how mirrors work? I don't remember. Oh, at the magic show. Magic show. Thank you. At the town show. Yes. Thank you, guys. Brain freeze there for a second. Yeah, well, to me, my 2 favorite lines. One also came from the magic show. One, again, is the lights go out. Oh, thank God. That was great. But the other one was when Wanda turns the piano into just a cardboard cutout and the guy's like, that was my uncle's piano or my grandfather's piano or something. I admit, I laughed really hard at that point. I laughed really hard. The papaya line was pretty funny and who said the papaya line? Black Bleach. Papaya. Yeah. The papaya line in the 3rd episode was pretty funny too. All right. Adrian Rosales writes, the stork was a reference to the delivering of babies. Yes. We understand that. Again, we understand what a stork represents. That's why they painted the stork on the wall. But why did it manifest? Was it her pain doing it? Was it her subconscious doing it? Was it an outside force doing it? Like, why did the painting on the wall just suddenly magically manifest and come into being? And it surprised her and she had to hide it from Monica. That's the question. That's the key question. All right. Run Amok Designs writes, can I just say that Jones is the best? Is that the name? Is that Dottie's husband, Jones? Is that Dottie's husband? Is that what he says? Because remember, he's the one that gets fired in episode 1. It's Dottie's husband that's getting fired in episode 1. It's like, I don't like your Bolshevik sentimentalities. I wore a turtleneck. I think, is that what it was? Was that Jones? Is that the character's name? I can't remember. I'll just go with that. Maybe it is. All right. Fender for the win is saying, yeah, it is him. Okay, so that makes sense. D-Man05 writes, I think Agnes is a third party, not of Sword or Westview. She definitely has her own agenda. I think she's definitely Agatha Harkness. Again, there are some hints in there about it being Agatha Harkness. There are definitely some hints. But just because they're laying out some Easter eggs for people who know the comics, that doesn't necessarily mean that's what they're actually doing. And I'll tell you what, again, episode 3, when she's talking to Herb and he's about to explain something to Vision, and she looks at him terrified, absolutely terrified. That really takes away from me the notion that she might be in on the whole thing. I am now really starting to think she's not in on it at all. But then again, you never know. It could be. All right. Let's move on here. Morris Codes writes, honestly, I think that Wanda's screams were just really good 70s sitcom screams. I don't disagree. That's kind of what a 70, it had to be a little bit like go back and watch Lucy. Go back and watch some I Love Lucy. When she would like cry or scream, it was always done kind of comedically. I kind of think you're right about that, Morris Codes. I tend to lean your way a little bit too. Let's see here. Next up, Manny Garcia writes, I know you mentioned moving on from Infinity Stones, but don't forget that the Mind Stone was in the trailer, so it could play a big part in the series. I still don't think it will be. I mean, it's in the trailer because it's in Vision's head. It's there. Now, again, everything I say about my theories and what I think they will or won't do, everything I say is completely got a giant asterisk beside it of my mind could totally change next week with the next episode. A ton of things are possibilities. So everything I'm saying about what theories I have about will and won't happen is all temporary in a show like this, right? It's all temporary. Right now, because remember, week 1, episode 1, I'm like, that beekeeper is AIM. Now I totally don't think it's AIM. I don't think the Infinity Stones are going to play any part of this. Not in any real way. They did 11 years, 23 films, all that kind of stuff, all kind of revolving around the Infinity Stones. And I think that's now in the rearview mirror. I don't think they're bringing it up again. I say that now, but I could be singing a completely different tune by the time we get into episode 4. All right, so there's that. All right, Benjamin GL writes, Ralph is Mephisto's name in comics. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Also, Wanda can make sperm. Also, if not, would someone have to sleep with her? Would Marvel discuss something like rape? No, I don't think Marvel would do that. I don't think there's any need to do that either. Does Wanda have the ability to perform immaculate conception on herself? Maybe. She is reality altering after all. I still think a lot of this isn't reality, though. I think a lot of this is fantasy. That's where I think the kids come in. But Anne is 100% that they're real. So maybe that's the way they're going to go. And she just manifested them. Could be. I still think they're part of the illusion, like Vision is part of the illusion. That's kind of still where I fall on that. Could be wrong, though. We'll find out for sure. All right. Josh Bing writes, 1 of 2. In the comics, Tommy and Billy were constructs created via magic using Wanda's mutant abilities. To give them souls, Wanda used life fragments from Mephisto, who later absorbed the children to regain control of the fragmented souls. This could explain the children constructs of her mind. Yes, but again, you always have to go back to... you can never... Look, if X-Men Days of Future Past... if Age of Ultron, if Civil War, if any those things have taught us anything, it's never looked to the comics for what they're going to do in the movies. They really are two completely separate things. And so while that definitely does not preclude them from doing that, I just think it's not a good starting point. I don't think it's a good starting point to say, well, in the comics they did this. Especially when you're talking about specifics. If you're talking about generalities, that's one thing. But specific events done in specific ways, like again, Civil War was nothing like the Civil War comic run. right? The Civil War comic series is nothing like the way the movie turned out to be. Because you could say, well, in the comic, in Civil War, Spider-Man and Tony had a press conference and Spider-Man showed his thing to the whole world. Yeah, that happened in the comics, but it's clearly something they completely discarded. So you're not wrong, Josh. But I just don't think, I think we need to look for our clues in the MCU itself or in larger context themes from the comics as opposed to specific instances. But again, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen, and it doesn't mean it's wrong. So let's keep our eyes on it as we move forward. Okay, let's see. Where are we at here? That was Josh. Anyway, well thought out, Josh. Next up, Just Plain Steve writes, the more I watch, the more I feel like everyone knows they're trapped in this reality she has created and they're playing along out of fear. Again, it goes back to that episode of Twilight Zone with the kid where everybody has to play along. And it is feeling, episode 3 really does make it feel more like that, right? It does make it feel more like that. That they're all in it, they know what's going on. Again, that raises the question, why does Dottie and her husband play character when Vision and Wanda aren't even there? It does raise some questions, but yeah, Just Plain Steve, it is starting to give off that thing more and more. Now, I'm still not sure everybody in this world is real. I still think a bunch of them may be fictitious, but Anne thinks 100% that they're all real. Some other people have written in thinking they're all real. Maybe that could be the case. All right, Double Crit writes, one of two. In the comics, X happens. To me, it seems like Marvel/DC writers intentionally do things differently, so this logic is pretty much worthless now. That was one of two. Personally, I think it's more fun to ignore whatever happened in the comics, since usually it is dumb crap from 80s anyway. Agnes is not a witch. Right, but they can give Easter eggs of it, right? And wink a little bit. Because hey, listen, I don't think it's a total coincidence, by the way. When we see in the one commercial for WandaVision, Vision looks in the car and pulls her out of a trance of some sorts, and she says, am I dead? No, why would you say that? Because you're dead. Ha ha ha. I don't think it's a complete coincidence that she's wearing a witch outfit. If you remember, she's got the witch hat and the black witch robes, right? That doesn't mean that I think she's Agnes Harkness, but it could very well be that, Kevin Feige and the people behind the MCU are giving us those little Easter eggs of it. So that's possible too. But yeah, I'm with you. I think they quite intentionally Double Crit will stay away from the comic stuff. Number one, because it wouldn't necessarily work as performed in the comics as well on screen. But number two, to keep even the comic book fans on their toes, surprised, and all that kind of stuff. So we will see. All right, next up, Wyatt Bender sends in like a $20 super chat. Thank you, Wyatt, for supporting our channel on that level, man. Appreciate that. I believe Mephisto is a part of this. The Ralph character is actually the name that Mephisto goes by in the comics, which we've mentioned earlier already. And he also has a part in Scarlet Witch's children, and I think he wants the kids in the show to absorb them. Again, that's been mentioned out here a few times, and very well could be the case. I still don't think so. And I understand the connection to the events in the comics, but I think they're going to deviate from that. Not impossible. But I don't think they're going to do it. But again, it's going to be like, again, I watched episode 1. That's AIM. Now I'm like, totally, that's not AIM. So today I'm saying, nah, I totally don't think that everybody in the world is real. By next episode, the end of episode 4, I could totally be like, oh yeah, everybody there is real. So I don't know. So right now I am still personally leaning against what most of you guys seem to think, that Mephisto's a part of this. I'm still leaning against that, but can't rule it out either, man. You cannot rule it out. It is absolutely a possibility. So let's keep our eyes on that, Wyatt, because look, there's a good chance you could be proved to be right here. Very good chance you could be proved to be right. But I'm still sticking with the idea of, nope, it's not Mephisto. But we'll see. We'll find out. All right, Bryce Bradford writes, Vision dashed out after the Doctor, imitating Pietro's speed. Never knew Vision to have speed running like that. Then Pietro is mentioned while he's gone. True, but he has exhibited, like I said, big general things. super speed is something Vision has exhibited in the comics. That's a big, just general principle. So, but I think you're right. I don't think they have shown it in the movies yet or in the MCU yet, but I think that's a commonly understood power of his. Maybe yes, maybe no. Maybe it's totally projection that Wanda's putting on him because she's been thinking about her brother. That's a totally valid thought there, Bryce. That's a completely valid thought. So we'll see. All right. We already did double crit. Now we move on to Dirk Walker, who writes, my theory, Vision is the hero of this show. I think there's a possibility of that. I think he's the one who deduces everything that's going on. Vision is the hero of this show. Wanda is the villain. He's going to be the one to have to stop her and free everyone. And again, I don't even think he's real. My guess right now, which will totally change over the next few weeks, but my guess right now is that even as a fake Vision, he is self-aware. He will figure out that he's not the real Vision. And I think he'll talk Wanda down. Maybe. Or she totally ends as the villain. You know, you either die the hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And she ends as the villain, wipes out and destroys this fake Vision, and then has to be dealt with once we get into Spider-Man and Doctor Strange 2. I don't know. It's going to be really weird, but I think you're right. I think Vision is going to be the key. I think you're right about this, Dirk. I think Vision will be the key to unlocking everything in the show. I think he will be the key. All right. And Black Bleach writes in the live chat, this show is going to end sadly. I think there's a very, very good chance this show ends sadly. I think you're right about that. All right. Gabriel Mangesha writes, does this earring make me look fat? Lights turn off. Thank God. My favorite character in the show. I mean, he has been great. And again, that was my uncle's piano. The whole thing, that terrible music, that horrible excuse for entertainment. I brought a string quartet. He has been very funny in the show. Even in just these little doses, he has been very funny in the show, Gabriel. All right, next up. Santino84 writes, hey guys, I love the attention to detail that the show has, especially the scene where Wanda tried to use her powers on the stork and the type of effects they used to showcase her powers from the 70s era. There has been, like we talked about that as well, Santino, right back in episode 1, when like little things like the plates flying around in the air, they specifically did it to make it look like the way those effects would have looked like they were being done in the era. And you're right, even now, even Vision changing his face with the sparkly wash of going from his Vision face to his human face. Like, they try to make the effects like those effects would have looked in their time and era. And you're absolutely right. It is that attention to detail that really, really feels like it just makes it feel so right. You know what I mean? And just those little details are what really bring it home. And I completely agree with you on that. All right. Next up, Benjamin GL writes, I agree with Dirk. Wanda is the villain, Vision is the hero, and convinces Wanda to truly let him go and dies again at the end, or she won't and makes a second sacrifice. Yup. Yeah. Again, we could all change our minds by episode 5, but right now, this has all the makings of a tragedy. This story is a Shakespearean tragedy. It starts off with WandaVision, happy new couple moving into their house. Everybody's laughing and it's fun. And it's going to end badly. This story is Macbeth. I mean, this story is going to be tragic. And something very bad is going to happen. Again, maybe not. Maybe we get in episodes 4, 5, 6, and 7. We start to see it's going to have more of a traditional, which is fine too. Maybe it'll have a more traditional kind of superhero story trajectory, and end with like Wanda and Vision teaming up against the bad guys, and maybe the bad guys is Agnes Harkness and or Agatha Harkness and Mephisto, and maybe that's it. But I think more and more, which we may change our minds of in a few weeks, but right now it is kind of seeming like it's going in that just total way of tragedy. But we'll find out. All right, K Major writes, How awesome would it be to have James Spader in one of the commercials? Ooh, of course, for those you don't know, James Spader is the actor who does the voice of Ultron. Oh my God, that's a great idea. Oh, sign me up. That is an awesome idea, K Major. I love it. I love it. Totally. Sign me up. I completely love it. Great idea. Make it happen. It is a missed opportunity if they don't do it. Oh, by the way, damn it, I missed it. Where did I said on my show a while ago, let me see if I can bring this up. I said on my show a while ago, let me see if I can find it. Oh, it is here. Hold a second. So I said on my show a while ago that how do I save this? Let me see if I can save it as yes. Okay. I just want to show this to you guys because I think you'll get a kick out of it here. So I said on this show last week, I said, wouldn't it be amazing if because she's seeing these visions of trauma that she's had, right? Seeing visions of her trauma. I said, wouldn't it be funny if Ultron shows up, but he's totally in character in the show? What if Ultron shows up as a mailman? I said, somebody draw that for me. Well, one of our viewers, Maxwell, wrote in and says, Wanda, here's your mail. So wouldn't it be amazing if Ultron literally just shows up in character as the local mailman? I'd be all about this. And again, special thank you to Maxwell for drawing that and writing it and sending it in to me. That's awesome. But yeah, what if in one of the commercials, instead of Ultron's face, it's James Spader, the voice of Ultron, talking totally in Ultron's voice? I would love it, K Major. I'd be totally down for that. Okay, next up. Ali Hussein writes, does Wanda know what she's doing is wrong? I mean, manipulate people, memories, etc. Here's the thing. And this is the deeper kind of truth and drama to it. People in pain don't care. People in pain don't think about that. When somebody is in terrible, terrible pain, oftentimes the very human reaction is whatever you need to do to ease that pain is justifiable. And don't we do that? When we have something terrible going on in our lives, if we can avert that terribleness, whatever that terribleness is, whether it's a relationship terribleness, a job terribleness, a health terribleness, whatever kind of terribleness you want, don't we kind of justify in our own heads taking the actions, whatever actions we need to take to try to alleviate that terribleness? And really, for somebody like Wanda may not even really be thinking about it. She's just in terrible pain, and whatever she does, Robert James in the live chat says it well. Says Wanda has buried her grief for so long. This is her way of coping. That's a good way to put it, man. That's a good way of putting it. It could be she's not even thinking about it and not even really wrapping her head around the fact that I'm stealing the lives of all these people and holding them captive. I mean, that's if that's what's happening. If that's what's happening. But we'll have to wait and see. All right. Thanks for writing that in, Ali. It's because it's a good thing there. Let's see. Where are we at? Brandon Nope writes, could the stork be a test animal for Sword? Maybe. But then again, the stork goes back up onto the picture and absorbs it. I mean, one thing, maybe Sword slipped in an animal to see if Wanda would recognize something's gone wrong, but then the animal acts in a very sitcom way, goes up and blends in with the painting of the stork on the web. It's not a bad, I like the way you're thinking there, Brandon, though. All right, OJ Man 654 writes, that one glitch cut with WandaVision freaked me out. Oh yeah, when Vision was like, no, Vision says to Wanda, something is wrong. This happens, and then this happens. And then you see they cut to Wanda's face where she looks horrified that he's figuring it out. And she looks horrified. He's breaking my fantasy. He's breaking my reality. He's breaking my vision. And then just, she changes it. And the conversation starts again, and this time it goes the way she wants it to go. It was freaky, man. It was absolutely freaky. Run Amok Designs writes, Can you imagine Wanda manifesting the kids, then the breakdown she'd have upon learning that she has to leave this reality? Basically, a mother being torn from her children. That's something to fight over. Yep. And you know what? I hate bringing up Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but because I don't like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., when one of the characters, I think it was Mac, in this Matrix world that they were living in, Mac had kids, but it wasn't real. And they had to convince Mac to leave that world, but it was tough for him because to him, the kids were real. The kids were real to him. And accepting that they weren't real and he had to leave them behind, horrible. What if they did something like that with Wanda? That could be very interesting too. That could be very, very interesting too. Midnight is asking, John, why didn't you like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Because it was a total bag of shit. That's why. John, why didn't you like this? Because it was awful. I mean, you don't have to think it was awful. I thought it was awful. And I wanted to like it so much because you guys know I like the MCU. I love Clark Gregg, who plays Agent Coulson. But yeah, that to me, the show was terrible. I wish I liked it like a lot of you guys like it. I wish I did like it, but just I really did not like the show, even though I wanted to. Anyway, so anyway, Runner Mic Design. Yes, that is something to fight over. And again, maybe something that just breaks her even again. And now these kids, even though they were fantasy, she lost her kids now. Oh my God. Can you imagine somebody like Wanda already on the edge of sanity and then now loses her children? Even if they were fantasy to her. Now lose her children? That's a total mess waiting to happen, Run Amok Design. Total mess waiting to happen. All right, next up. Fan of Peanuts writes, I don't think Wanda knows what is going on. She has all the power, but is ultimately being manipulated by having her memories suppressed and controlled. I don't know. I'm not seeing that. Like the moment, like look at the beekeeper again. The moment the beekeeper comes in, she recognizes this is not right. And she resets it and she says, no. Boom. Back to the world the way she wants it to be, where she's happy, she has vision, everything's great. As soon as Vision starts to figure out what's going on, boom, resets it. All that kind of stuff. I mean, I think she's pretty much in control here. I think she's pretty much in control. So yeah, that's kind of the way I see it. At any rate, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, a fan of Peanuts. And who knows, we'll find out. Maybe you're right about that. Tyler Pfeiffer writes, apparently Dick Van Dyke consulted on the show. I heard about that and he had never even heard of the MCU. Amazing. Paul Bettany mentioned in an interview with Clyder that he got to work with a dream actor who has not been announced yet. Is it going to be a major character or cameo? Kevin Feige said the other day that Dick Van Dyke wasn't even aware of the MCU when they approached him, which to me is funny. So maybe it could be. Somebody once wrote into me mentioning that Paul Bettany saying he got to work with an actor he dreamed of working with, which who knows, that could have been Catherine Hahn, that could have been anybody. But somebody wrote in and theorized that the actor Paul Bettany got to work with, that was a dream for him to work with, was Al Pacino as Mephisto. Because if you remember back during Guardians of the Galaxy, Al Pacino made the news because he had seen Guardians of the Galaxy and was like, I would totally be in one of these movies. Hoo-ah! I would be in one of these movies. Hoo-ah! Anyway, so somebody had that theory, but maybe he was specifically talking about Dick Van Dyke. That would make more sense. All right, next up. Philly G writes, I love the way Herb looks at Vision when he mentions the hedge clippers and just keeps cutting anyway. Again, even if he is in that, even if Herb is a real guy trapped inside there, which I think the conversation with Agnes kind of suggests, what was with that, him cutting through the wall almost obliviously? Like, what was that about? It'll be interesting to see how they kind of explain that. It will be interesting. All right. Niferus writes, the noisy lady stopped the brother next door from saying something. Oh, you're talking Agnes and Herb from saying something. I believe he was going to say we're mutants too, Vision. No, I don't see that. I don't see that happening. I don't think Kevin Feige's bringing in mutants and all that kind of stuff. Look, every time a new MCU thing comes out, for the past 3 years, everybody says, this is where they're going to bring in mutants. This is where, and Kevin Feige said 5 years minimum. So I don't really think that's going to be the case, but he was about to, absolutely, Nifris, he was about to break something big, to which Agnes turned to him horrified, like pleading with him, don't say anything or we're dead, sort of thing. Totally creepy scene. Totally creepy. All right. Next up, Suthius writes, hey guys, I think Vision will indeed be the one to liberate the town from Wanda's grasp. To do so, Vision must somehow sacrifice himself once again, thus causing Wanda to go further off the deep end. Yep, I could totally see that. Or Wanda takes him out trying to stop him from ending the thing. Either way, Suthius, I think you're right, and this thing ends badly. I think you are right, and that this thing ends badly. And I think poor Vision is going to get screwed again. Vision always getting screwed, man. He's always getting screwed. He didn't just die once in Endgame. Dude died a horrible death twice in Endgame. And not to mention, because of, whatever, he's the one who shot Rhodey out of the sky in Civil War. Crippled a friend of his. It's just not good. Then he had Wanda crush him and put him into the ground. Remember that in Civil War? So she could get away from the girl he's in love with. Did that to him. Finally gets to hook up with Wanda. That gets taken away from him. I'm telling you, Vision is always getting screwed. Poor Vision. I feel bad for Vision. All right. Next up. And you know what, guys? I said I've got a meeting at 7, so I'm going to have to end this soon. And not to mention my voice is about to go. I'm getting close to I've done over 5.5 hours of live streaming today, and my throat is just about done. So I'll just do a couple more quick one here, guys. And I'm going to have to do a companion video for this weekend. So whatever questions I didn't get around to, guys, don't worry. I will do a companion. I mean, we've gotten through most of them. I'm impressed how much we've gotten through, but I will do a companion video this weekend. I honestly didn't think we'd have to go almost 3 hours today. I didn't think that, but we want to talk about WandaVision. All right, let's get through a couple more here. A fan of Peanuts writes, how or why does Wanda's power change reality? Her powers are obviously derived from the Mind Stone. Well, fine. I'm calling this now then. Doctor Strange at some point will have to use the Time Stone to go back. When Wanda was the villain, wins and destroys all of existence, he will only undo it by retrieving the Reality Stone and reverse it. I don't think so. I mean, listen, what you're saying makes sense. I mean, that can work. That what you're proposing, you're a fan of Peanuts, is well thought out. It does connect certain dots, and it could go that way. I don't think that's what Kevin Feige's doing here. Again, it comes down to a principle that I know a lot of you disagree with, and you could very well end up being right, and I could be very wrong here. But right now, the way I feel is that, again, the Infinity Stones, they just did 11 years of Infinity Stones. They just did 23 movies based on the Infinity Stones. It's time to move on from the Infinity Stones. The Infinity Stones stuff is done. And I don't see those becoming the main objects that become the whole thing. Because really think about that. The entire MCU up to this point, almost, not every single one, but almost every single movie has been predicated on everything hinges on this stone. And then another movie, it's all about the ether. And then another one, it's all about the Eye of Agamotto. Is that how you pronounce it? It's all about that one. And that one's about this stone. And then it becomes about collecting the stones. And then it becomes, everything has been about the stones. For 11 years, 20 plus films, and they finally put it to bed. Are they really now going to come out in WandaVision and say, guess what, folks? It's all about the Infinity Stones again. It's all about Wanda using this stone, getting her power from then. The Doctor Strange is going to come back. He somehow is going to bring the Time Stone back into existence, even though it had been destroyed. And I think you thought that out very well, fan of Peanuts. And I think those dots do connect, but I just don't see them going in that direction now. Not impossible, they could do it, but I will say from a creativity point of view, I'll be very disappointed in Marvel if they do. It's like, really? You couldn't come up with something else? 11 years, 20 plus films, all revolving around the Infinity Stones, and now we're moved past them, and you couldn't come up with something else? that is the fulcrum of the story other than Infinity Stones again, I'll be disappointed. So I'm for now going to guess that that's not what they're doing. I'm going to guess that that's not what they're doing for all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's just kind of where my thought is on that. All right, guys, listen. I am unfortunately out of time right now, but we did get through most of them. For everybody else, Patrick Conway, Mike Hill, Mario Gonzalez, Dirk Walker, Philly G, and all that out, I will do the spoiler review companion video this weekend. We'll get the rest of your questions knocked out. I think we could probably get through the rest of them in another 30 minutes. I think, yeah, we got about 30 minutes left of questions to do. I will knock those out this weekend and get that up just as soon as I can. Guys, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this open spoiler discussion. Great to have you guys here. It's amazing. We just took a 30-minute episode, and we've literally almost gone 6 times longer. We're approaching 3 hours talking, but that's how much there is to talk about WandaVision. Guys, thank you so much for being here and joining us for this. Thank you to all of you guys who sent in your great theories, great ideas. Some I agreed with, some I disagreed with, and by next week, I'll probably be agreeing with you instead, but we will find out soon enough. Special thanks to my wife, Anne, who is here, and thank you guys for being so nice to my wife, Anne. Makes her want to come back on the show and do more. That makes me feel really good. Yeah, guys, so that'll do it for now. Again, keep your eyes open this weekend. We will do that companion video. And then, of course, somehow, some way, Ann and I will be able to do, we'll figure out how we will do, even though we're moving next Friday, we'll still figure out a way to do the spoiler discussion for episode 4, because I have a feeling episode 4 is just going to, like, blow the doors off. I feel like it's just going to absolutely blow the doors off. I think we're going to get some more big bombs dropping in there. I'm very excited about it. That will do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name is John Campea, and until next time, my friends. Oh, thank God.